now I did it. I had a good performance. I can relax, you know?
I think that's the thing. We have this expectation of Crashies now of, okay, you can do it in week 1. Can you continue this on? Because if they need someone to kind of pull the team up in those kind of moments where it's maybe just not their day, I think he proved that he did that last week.
I'm an Alston defender. I believe in him. But on the other side of this, we do have a Team Vitality that stole some ideas. Kukuka from Fnatic. Of course, Durka moving on to this roster, it was bound to happen. What did you think about his thoughts on he was able to make the Haven comp better, he could, you know, lead from the front and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think that Durka was very comfortable because when we think about the whole of the composition and when we were looking at it, I think that last week when we brought them up, you were asking me about, do you like this composition or not? And I asked you, is this my team? Do I have Durka? Do I have this? Do I have that? The composition works because he's one of the pivotal parts of it that can make it work from the agent that he's playing, because in many agents, he is the best that there is. It is how it is. It's not news for anybody. But now we're going to see if those ideas that he grabbed from Fnatic or that he, you know, took
borrowed.
Borrowed, yeah, that's the word, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Because they said, yeah, we can yoink it, but then we seen this change at Masters Bangkok, which I don't know if anyone was expecting, and it just didn't look so great after all.
I mean, it is a small change, just safe going on the jet, but nothing tells us that that is something that they are going to keep doing today. If we are to see the Haven, this was against a T1 that, as you remember, they won the entire event, and they were looking a bit different when they faced up.
Sometimes we talk about a player perhaps knowing strategies, being able to read them, counter them on another team that they've been on. I don't think it applies more than to Durka. He's going to know everything that Boaster calls his tendencies, what he likes to do, so the brain game is going to be very, very interesting today. Not only that, Vitality of themselves as the Challengers defender, Billy, brought in a new face and he looked so good.
Yeah, he looked absolutely great. I brought it up last week as well. You know, we were used to seeing him on this initiator role when he was in mandatory in Tier 2 before. Really, really great performance on the breach. But now we see him slotting in as that primary controller for Vitality, which is exactly what they needed, I think, to be able to balance this roster out. It's exactly what they were missing. And honestly, for a debut that he had last week, I cannot wait to see him play again today.
Yeah, and I hope that it was also a crash out for him. We saw him, and you had an interview with him, Sue, and he was not nervous at all. You think that going on the stage, playing in a team like Vitality that is expected to be the best in the region, you'd be a little bit nervous, but he was in his element, and that is what he needs to be today, because first week, okay, you got that out of the way, okay, you built an acquaintance with the stage and whatnot. Do you want to go up against Fnatic?
But do you think the opponent matters? Because it is two very different beasts, right? You often see players maybe respect Fnatic a little bit too much.
But this is when things get real, because if you want to be the best, if you want to compete with, you also have to compete against the best. Yes, as I said, now you've gotten comfortable. Let's see if we can put you to the test with playing against Fnatic.
Exactly, and I think that's when we can start drawing comparisons, to bring up Tier 2 again, between the Tier 2 players.
Do it.
Like when I think of Sivov and then when I think of Kayak, you know, Kayak also kind of felt that pressure when he first joined Fnatic. But I think the fact that they have this performance coach in the roster now as well, he's been clearly working one-to-one with him to kind of help settle those nerves. We've seen him have a bit of a blowout on Fracture last week until he got onto that up. But yeah, the way he's able to calm himself, yeah, I'm interested to see how Sivov performs if he gets to a pressure moment.
We will see in just a moment. You don't get storylines like this every single day. It's time for one of the best players we have ever had taking on his former squad. Make some noise for Durka's team versus Fnatic.
Don't do it, I said yeah, my boy said don't do it, I said yeah, my boy said don't do it, I said I can't keep up, play for the leader, big queso, I'm born with the ether, but I still take a heater, no halo, I've been with a handgun, I've been on the King Kong, from Halo, I've been on, what? Check my pedigree, I got
He helped to build them, and now he's here to try and beat them. Durka will be taking on Fnatic and some of his former teammates for the first time ever in his career. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this, but more importantly, the map vetoes. How is this going to go?
Yeah, we'll see, because last week we saw both of the teams banning Pearl. Fnatic is going to go first, and actually they're going to leave the Pearl open, banning that Icebox first, and Vitality to ban that Pearl.
Yeah, I think that's a Giga Chad move from Fnatic, coming in bold and kind of forcing Vitality to ban out that Pearl. But looking ahead at this veto, Haven was a map that both teams decided to leave as a floater towards the end last week in their veto, so it's no surprise there. But Lotus being the second pick there for Vitality, that's a big one for me, because this is something that Fnatic had to ban in their second wave last week.
Vitality playing the same maps, the first two that they played last week. Also very interesting when we look at the sides. Vitality choose to start on the attack, and Fnatic chooses the same for Lotus. When we look at the performances from last week, Fnatic, they had a very good split. Yes, but we barely got to see what they could do from that defense. It was actually the attack that they excelled at, and we can say the exact same thing from Vitality. We barely got to see their defense because it was only 3 first rounds that they closed up very quickly against Dianex.
I hope we get Haven, and
Please.
I hope that Vitality have the balls to run the Yoru ISO comp and to try and confirm what Durka was saying, that he can make that comp a little bit better. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about this split, because it looks a little bit different, Billy, to when Durka was on this team. You know, Fnatic has brought out new stuff.
Yeah, Fnatic have brought out new stuff, and I think it's really nice to see them kind of playing that double duelist. I think I've said it in the past, when we see Alpha jump onto that duelist, we see Kayak so much more comfortable. I think Crashes as well coming into this split, I'm going to be keeping my eye on. I think he had a great fade last week, so yeah, it's been really, really nice to see them kind of look comfortable on this map.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of that we're talking now about Durka, but I love that you bring up Kayak, especially when we think about that last map that we saw last week. It took him to grab that operator and started to chain the kills together, but the effect and the atmosphere that you could see in the rest of Fnatic just hyping him up, even though he was having a bad map, is something that he's probably, you know, if he needs it here in Split, is definitely going to be there.
Let's not forget the other players on Vitality, because for Safe, Kix, and Runner, this is revenge. This is a grudge match for the grand finals we had last year. There will be no changes on Split, because why would they?
Why would you? For Vitality, we already mentioned the Zivov moving on to the Omen. My eyes also go to Kix. This is one of his best maps. And when we think about Safe and this comfort that they found in Brendan Zivov and putting him in that controller role, I want to see, because last week we only saw Safe playing that Tejo. I want to see if he's going to be excelling at the agent. Is he going to become the best Tejo that we have in the region? And I want to see maybe if they change something in the future maps.
I think Mr. Fall would have something to say about that one, Bea, but yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think as well, with him only sticking on that agent, I guess it's good for him in the sense that he is having to IGL this team, so if he's comfortable on that agent, that's fine, let's let him play it. And I like what you're saying about Kix. You know, we had that play of the week from him last week on this map. He was absolutely phenomenal on that breach. But when I'm looking at Les as well, he's just such a great anchor for this team, right? He's always able to hold things down. So starting on this attack, I'm expecting him to be able to find some lurks and hopefully find some gaps in Fnatic's defense.
We are truly in the depth of 5 years of Valorant, because Crashies is playing against Les in EMEA. This is happening here. It's not happening in Americas, and I sure would like to think that they also know each other's tendencies.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that being in different teams, being in EMEA where teams are just better, might have changed a little bit of the perspective that they could have on each other. I also want to see, we were highlighting Crashes, and one of the performances that was a breakthrough last week was with this Fade. Again, the attention to those two duelists. How much can you play with your opponent's mind? You're speaking about Durka knowing a lot about Fnatic, but Fnatic know a lot about Durka, and it's just not one mind thinking about them. It's actually a few of them.
I love that you bring up the duelist, because I am looking at this Yoru head-to-head specifically, and when we look at the experience across both sides, that has got to be a daunting task for Kayak, right? Coming up against a world-class duelist such as Durka, he's really going to have to be able to keep his head in the game during this one. And you can see them already, you know, doing their stretches, getting warmed up for this one. So I think they're ready.
And I want to make sure that Alpha stays confident, because last week he was a little bit quiet. He wasn't the alpha yet, the world-class trophy-winning alpha yet that we saw come out of him. And for him, you know, I don't want him to let Durka get in his head, because this is also two people that played together for such a long, long time. And we know Durka is the type of player that's definitely not going to let alpha get in his head. I don't think it's going to happen.
But
Alpha
I
needs to
also
stay
see-
seated. He needs to stay seated.
Yes,
Do
I
not
like
stand
that.
up. Do
I
not
like
stand
that.
up.
But I think that Alpha could also come out to the stage being like, I am going to get in his head. I can see myself getting in his head. Love the fact also that in the region we're seeing so much double duelists. It's a little bit after the result maybe that we saw in Masters Bangkok. But I love to see that teams like Heretics yesterday or like Fnatic today, when you have the tools, please use them. We absolutely love them because they give you a wave of creativity that many other teams can only dream with.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're seeing the flexibility of duelists now as well, right? I think now that Sunset is coming back into the map pool to bring that one up, we're probably going to see a lot more Neon played too. So yeah, it's nice to see the kind of diversity of agents that we have at this point.
We set the stakes already. It's time to see who is going to deliver. Over to the voices behind the action today. Take it away, Mitchman and Tombiz.
Thank you very much, Yinsu. It's time to see how this battle unfolds. I'm very excited. The prodigal son back down on the stage, but he's brought home his new family. Let's see who can take the cake.
New friend.
It's going to be one hell of a battle. You know, Dirk is obviously familiar with how Boaster likes to play the game. They've played a game or two together, a tournament or two, and a trophy or two lifted. We're diving into Split to start this one out. Tom, what's your impression of how we've ended up in this veto? Split, Lotus, and Haven. Does it lean to either team?
But the interesting thing is you go back to, what, last week where we had that sort of GX matchup, and Vitality have gone for the exact same pool. So clearly feeling very comfortable where they ended up, but that also gives the tape over to Fnatic. Durka, though, he is looking to battle and brawl within the first seconds of the round, but could just all be a ruse. The rest of the team is still patiently waiting back in mid.
Yeah, and you've still got that gate crash down inside sewers as well, so a decent fallback option if they need it. The idea to fake out early, and not much of a reaction from Fnatic. Very stable as they push up in B main, gaining control, and Alphair was tucked in that corner the entire time, getting a reward for his patience here. You see the Yoru, you think maybe it could be a fake, it could be looking to gate crash back, but now they've got the steps as well, confirming that this attacking side is moving up into heaven. Alphair greets them there as well. A double opener, but Safe puts him to bed. There's still a chance on this A side hold, but with the fast rotations coming behind them, them being boxed in with that middle push-up that's come through from Chronicle, and players rotating into the site, it's still quite an uphill battle.
It's looking rough at this stage for the side of Vitality. Boaster just playing passive, a wraparound already coming in from behind, and Safe is going to have to hit the shot immediately and won't be given the chance. Kicks stuck in the mud. The grab will bring it back, still manages to get one, but that will be all she wrote. First round will go the way of Fnatic, and that's the thing. We come into this matchup, one with a potential for either side to take it. Obviously, you go historically, Fnatic have always been the ones winning that fight of the two teams, but this is the first case where Durka is on the other side of the pool and as the best duelist. And, well, if you look at who won Duelist of the Year last year, also the second best duelist being on the team, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if Fnatic can weather that storm and keep that streak going.
Well, at least for now, it started out well, 1-0 as they begin, and an Outlaw purchased up in round 2. I'm happy to see it. Can't wait to see what Alphair can get done with it. In this round, well, it might be later in the round. Could even be the retake where he's needed. Vitality, they don't have a lot to work with. Granted, weaker weapons across the board. Pistols, classics, and one Sheriff. They move towards the A site, which was wide open. The only person defending it is Crashies with his early utility, hoping to garner some information, but Vitality already gave that info away, and the gate crash into site gets Durka all of this space. The plant will be difficult to stop without a big risk with a peek out of heaven, and so, yeah, a post plant. Not bad start for Vitality already.
The issue is, other than the extra credits, now it comes down to how much they can garner. Nice usage, actually, of that Aftershock is going to help them out quite significantly. 2 picks already. Kicks now stuck in the backlines. Sheriff in hand. 3 players to find. It would be an absurd way to start out this matchup. Nice shot on the first, but can't quite correct. Very close, actually, to taking down Boaster. It's damage. It's not bad, but Fnatic still convert.
Yeah, I think Vitality get the best of both worlds here with being able to push into a site where it's not very heavily defended, and then they get those close range engagements with the pistols as the players are coming back out of screens. So yeah, when push comes to shove in the rest of the fights, you're not going to be winning them, but well-placed utility and a good gamble early rounds resulted in a dent to the Fnatic economy at the very least.
I'm
But
shooting
now
again, baby. Every day I'm shooting at the start.
We're getting back to reality, though, for Vitality. They've made it work pretty well with a minimal investment. Now, the big guns come through.
I'm excited for this one. I feel like both teams have come in with high energy. Saw Alfier a little bit early on, and he said he's definitely ready to play, ready to go, and I think he's going to want to beat his old teammate. For now, though, it's his teammate of Kayak. Already getting that early aggression onto Safe. Bear in mind, of course, that there are still a few vulnerabilities here for the side of Fnatic, but a victory would send their economy skyrocketing and also retrieve some extra weapons as they go. Spot, Crashies on a Stinger. That Outlaw, okay, still decent, but still in play.
The Outlaw giving them opportunities as well. You know, even if Crashies just peppers them up, we've already seen through that cage, but Chronicle going down in mid, it's going to cause problems. You're losing your Viper wall and some A control as a result, at least a denial on the push, but instead they go pushing. Fnatic find a pick back in the other direction, keep that advantage now in a 3 versus 4, and Vitality very much moving towards the position that Fnatic want them to, right into the waiting hands of Kayak.
Yeah, it's been fantastic so far. Boaster as well, even just said it seconds ago. He's on point, he's been fragging. They will be the point of contention.
30 seconds left.
Haven't cleared him, and eyes are focused on Kayak. Doors open for Boaster. He welcomes himself in. That's a double pick from the backside. A great round from Kayak as well. Fnatic really heating up, or rather coming in hot with a 3-0 start and denial of the early buy round from Vitality. This is going to be quite the lead built up on the defensive side. Let's talk expectations as well, Tom. Like, you're seeing 3-0 on the board for Fnatic. How worried are Vitality at this point?
But that's been the interesting thing. You look back to the very small amount of data we have from stage 1, and both teams have had very successful attack sides. So you're talking a 9-3 versus GX, and that game actually started to slip back a little bit. And then on the other side, an 8-4 versus Na'Vi for Fnatic. The question I have, though, is that are some of the heroes for either side still going to have the same level? Crashies had an insane game last week to help them get the victory over Na'Vi. And wow, Sivu maybe coming out with the debut of the season? Or definitely debut of the season, maybe debut of ever in EMEA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming into this week, coming into today, he's the leader in terms of ACS. He was second last week after all the games were played. Second to Zeus, who, yeah, he was all right in the first week, so that's not bad. Again, low investment from Vitality, so not too excited to see these battles going on, as they should go the way that they have. A bit of a dent that Vitality are able to dish out, but for the most part, again, dominance for Fnatic.
One other talking point is the fact, though, that if you're going to go into the exact same veto as you did in week 1 against Fnatic, like, okay, we've obviously had changes in coaching staff with Milan and Scott now as that sort of leading way. Yeah, of course, you're supporting the Irish guy. But no, genuinely, from what we've heard from BBL as well, those guys do their research. I've seen Milan. No offense, Matt. Doesn't look like you've slept a lot. I think he's been up all night prepping for this game. So obviously the same can be said for the other side, Vitality. But you have given them the data to look at, and they're coming in with the exact same idea.
Well, 4-0 start. As you said, it's been good attack sides, and so for Vitality, they know that maybe the worst is yet to come. It's time to start putting rounds up on the board, and this is where you do it. Rolling Thunder online alongside Safe, although he doesn't have his ult, he's still got those salvos and will incrementally through the rounds. Don't think we used them early on. Indeed, that they wouldn't be online had they have been used, as you've seen just a default. Vitality spreading across the map, waiting for aggression, and they've spotted that a couple times that aggro's come in once they take space elsewhere. A smoke goes up in mid, and that prompts a B push, but not ready for it to pack quite that much of a punch. In a big round for Vitality, they're already a man behind.
Look back to that GX game. Sivo was lurking there a lot. I think that might just be direct pressure. Flash through. Alfier is watching, but Durka timing almost works out for him. But either way, it has forced them back. An important entry, though. Chronicle down, leaves a bit of an opening, but the B main aggression is still there. Kayak is waiting, not going to fall for it, and then gets the easy shot. Now has his dimensional drift, and Alfia for support, who's going to swing back in. Safe connects one while still on the ropes, but they know exactly where he is. An easy pick-off for Boaster, and now left onto less. 20 seconds, and Kayak just is not missing a beat. What a start this guy is having, Mitch. Well, I think we have had some lack of expectations from Kayak, like whether he can match up to the likes of Durka. He's doing all right.
Okay, we're
Yeah,
going,
I
we're
mean, there's
taking
always
B
going to be questions.
main. 3.
That's exactly what we were touching on as well. That's great to see. Thank you very much to our ABS team for that one. The idea that, again, they're taking mid. You see that take. What was the response in some of the early rounds? Push B main. Same thing here, but because Vitality didn't have players in position earlier, they didn't know that Yoru Flash was being used. They weren't ready for the pop, and the reaction to jump up behind the boxes was punished very quickly indeed. Vitality go back to the drawing board here, as, make no mistake, their game plan was bait aggression out of their opponent, and they did that successfully. That's where it started to fall apart. And then pulling in the Rolling Thunder as well into this round when we're coming in with Safe just now having the Armageddon. It's a lot of, I guess, gamble from that side that play would work out in a round like that where they had rifles. It didn't connect, and now they go back to the drawing board for what is, we've gone from needing to get a couple rounds on the board here now, feel a little bit more confident, to panic stations. Fnatic are getting close to just running away with this.
Yeah, and as said, like I think Fnatic are no slouches when it comes to that second half, so I think a good time to take a pause. It did seem like maybe a lot of the talking was coming out of Safe. I think Faded looked a little bit quieter on screen, so I think clearly taking control in that scenario, maybe spotting stuff himself. I wonder if we're going to see something slightly more direct, because as you said, adaptations being made from Fnatic on the fly. Well, the way you can take that away from them is surprise factor.
Salvo's lined up. TP in the back of B will come in just after salvos have fully popped. Or just before, in fact. Durka's going to tank a little bit of it for the element of surprise. Hasn't been able to catch anyone off guard, but this is a great round to take those risks in when you've got those weaker weapons. Armageddon calls it gloves. Alpha can't get out. He has to fight them here and now. And at least manages to keep things even. The ult trade out, well, if it was just for the kill, it wouldn't be worth it, but now they've got heaven control and a real chance in this round.
Dimensional drift also available. That's just been picked up by Durka. Means he can get them the information if he needs. Instead, he's just going to go fighting, just beating his old IGL with only a ghost in hand. This leaves Kayak 9-2. Operator, not really the gun you'd want in these sort of moments. He'd have to pick less out of the corner, and he checks the right position, but doesn't quite find that final kill. Pace safe card, thrifty is what gets Vitality onto the board, and I don't know what was said in that pause, but it was bang on.
Yeah, absolutely the right call. Just putting that bit more pressure on early.
The stun
like we
is
said,
gorgeous.
taking some risks. Alpha obviously trying to dodge the stone with that jump up. Doesn't manage to, but still picks off a kill. But it's the chaos on the site. Both the player in heaven being crept up on, and then the fact that you're looking the wrong way. Boaster worried about that heaven walk up. Worried about Les, who just found a pick moments ago. Ends up missing out on Durka. 5-1. Vitality, they put a round on the board, and the reason I was so worried is I thought it would be 6-0 with a bye round, putting them on a knife's edge of how this game was going to go, but instead, they've put a very early round up in that week 5.
Yeah, it has to be just the escape from Kayak. They set him up. Basically succeed. It looks like there's going to be an immediate response, though. An attempt to deny any chance at a plant, the utilization of that showstopper, but it actually hasn't got the kill. The player at backside with the spike still survives. Safe has just popped off as well. 2 of his own.
I don't know how Kix is still alive. Well, I do. The stairs saved him. Just the corner of them caught the showstopper as it was firing into, well, what would have been certain death for Kix. Would even make this fight a little easier, as they'd only have to worry about Seavoth on the site. Kicks with another, and now Chronicle has to clutch up. He's already got himself a triple. 2 more, the ace needed, but less again. The dagger in the back from heaven. His lurks have been great these last 2 rounds. Huge value found, and now 5-2. That early contest was nowhere to be found, but Vitality waking up before it seems to be too late.
And they have been more direct. They haven't really allowed their opponents a chance to try and respond. An immediate pop of that dimensional drift spots out the position of Kayak. And at that stage, when you have that up, you have to leave. You're going to get salvaged, you're going to get stunned. It just has to be a retreat. And sure, I don't mind the initial response from Fnatic. Use that Nightfall, try and get back in nice and quick, even using a showstopper of their own in combination. The fact is, though, it's just the patience, I think, that ends up working out for the side of Vitality. I think it takes a certain level of skill to rush in somewhere and then just stop and do absolutely nothing. Just wait for your opponents to make a move, because if you try and push forward and they're all waiting, you probably lose the round. Think if Kix even moves an inch or two forward or tries to plant, he doesn't stand a chance in that moment. It's just that freeze and giving space to that little bit of extra time for safe.
I was lucky enough to catch up with Kata yesterday, Cadaver from Mates. I got the little tutorial on Sivov. I said it enough times in front of him that he said, it's close enough. I think that's how they're going.
Probably is still wrong.
It probably is, most likely. But there's a lot of debate over in French whether the PH would come through or not. Sivov was another alternative that we were given. Not going to go with that one. The Americanization of it is a little much. But yeah, Sivov, he had a huge opportunity there because of the fact that Kix was still alive. There were 2 fights where he was able to creep up on the pillar, and they're looking at backside because they know there's a guy trapped there. He can't get out. Let's take him down. And even with the smoke up, that was where he was able to creep through and catch that player looking the other direction. So again, just those dominoes falling from Kix being able to survive. He did a great job. And again, top frag in the server. It's good to see him. One of the longest remaining members on this roster. For Fnatic, well, Kayak's been slowed down. He was 9-2, 9-4 now. Both rounds the Vitality have put up have seen him by the wayside, whether he's out of the play or getting dealt with early on. So a great adaptation considering 3 rounds ago, we saw Vitality adapt. They had the right read. We know that we can make them push, but they weren't able to deal with the push. So now they've become the push.
Obviously, again, going back to some sort of overall context of the match, there's so many stories to be had. Obviously, Durka sort of switching sides, but also seemingly the decision being more on Fnatic's front than his to go out of the team. Him now coming back and making it to that first Masters of the Year, getting into the top 4, and Fnatic not looking particularly good in that stage. It seems like they've come back swinging in stage 1, a switch up in coaching staff as well, but the other thing as well is just on an organizational perspective, Vitality never having that victory. And let's be honest, if in the past, I think there was always a bit of a mismatch. Fnatic having that better team, having that huge amount of wealth of experience, but also every single one of these sort of talented young players, or stealing people from Gambit. Like, you're talking about the best of the best. Their old coach was okay as well, I guess. He was decent. So it's kind of one of the things where up until this point, I think the expectation was nearly always there that it should be a Fnatic victory. I think this is the first time we come in where Vitality are the favorites. Like, you look at them and you go, okay, this is Durka and Safe. You brought in Les as well. You've now brought in a young Frenchman, and Kix is there to sort of like pull everything together, which I think he's done fantastically well. Also a great personality outside of the server as well for the squad. Invaded from across the pond to try and glue everything together. And then you have that first success. So I think it's a huge sort of talking point. Luckily, you've heard all my spew. And now you get to go back to the desk, which has Yinsu on it. See, I'll say your name. Yinsu's on the desk. There you go.
I mean, considering we're living in a world where Vitality is now called Durka's team, I saw that Team Liquid have rebranded to Nat's team, Apex have rebranded to Fluorescence team. I think it's about time that we rebrand this as Yingsu's desk. How do we feel?
That's all right.
Yeah. I'm putting myself up, you know, I'm on the same level as Floor, Nat, Durka.
I think that's
we agree with that.
Live your truth.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Live your
Thank
best
you.
life.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I am living my best life right now, and so are Fnatic, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. We see a very, very strong start for them with that 5-0, and then that not the tech pause, that tag pause comes in from the side of Vitality, and we see a switch in things. They even take that opportunity, even though the buy is not the best, to actually take and make a little bit of use of those ultimates and just pivot into a very specific part of the map for them.
What do you mean by
No. I feel
I was
like
like,
they're
where
just
you
gonna
going with
they're just
that?
gonna keep going B and B.
Okay,
B.
okay. Yeah, I can see that. Because I think that the direct hits on B have started to work for them, right?
Yeah.
So they're just like, okay. And you heard Tom talking about it, you know, oh, it's very skillful if you can kind of just take the moment to pause as soon as you get onto that site, which I think is what we're seeing so far, and you're kind of forcing Fnatic to flood back in. So yeah, I can expect us to start seeing that.
The reason, though, Fnatic have started off so hot is winning that bonus round, which is so important. And Kakuka, they just seem to do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I mentioned this in the last test, but to me it's very surprising because this is one of the things that characterized Navi last year, to win in a lot of bonuses, right? And currently, Fnatic, they're 9-2 in bonus rounds this year. This is after they have won those two first rounds, the pistol and the anti-eco right after that. They have an extremely high conversion rate. So when we speak about getting confidence going into a matchup, starting off strong, setting the pace, they're being very good at it.
I think as well, we have to look at the buy that they're having in round 2 for them to be able to convert these round 3s, because a lot of the time we're seeing Kayak on the Outlaw, we've seen Boaster pick up that Phantom, right? They are like investing quite heavily into their second round, which is allowing them to have this success when it comes to converting that bonus round.
I can't believe they gave Boaster the Phantom on round 2.
Did you not hear what he said? He was like, at the beginning of the match, I always shoot. And he shouldn't. Wasn't he like
Yeah,
a 9-0
crazy.
at some point?
Yeah, because Molzy's not allowed to do it. But, you know, God forbid, Molzy sometimes keeps a Phantom to himself instead of giving it to Floor. But this is the... I don't know about you guys, but you can almost really like feel the tension a little bit. Both sides, they're not doing anything too crazy. They're both being very disciplined. They're warming up into this game until Vitality became very explosive. And that is often the way that you beat Fnatic, right? Some teams just show them too much respect.
Yeah, I think we saw that when they were against BBL in kickoff, especially. You know, they were playing very kind of out the box and like taking a lot of risks. And I think that Vitality now are kind of leaning into that a little bit more the past couple of rounds that we've seen. They're trying to lean into being direct, not just like, you know, looking around the map. Because Kayak was shutting them down so often. You've seen the main push where he was helping set up Boaster. You see it in every lane. So yeah, I think, I think that Fnatic will have an answer for that at some point.
Yeah, and I think that thinking about today and the stakes, we expect to see a very evened out. I think we're praying to go to Haven, not only because we want to see what happens with the compositions, and obviously the head-to-head would be amazing, but I think that's what everybody is expecting. You want to see a Fnatic that is back in form, that can prove that they still have it, and for the side of Vitality, we know the expectations that they are there. And now they have to face their first challenge. Yes, Fnatic has started off with the lead. Can they snowball that, or are you going to counter it?
What I like about the countering aspect is that they clearly know where Chronicle likes to play. Chron has been in the game for, what, 4 seconds each round? It feels like he's instantaneously dead. But let's see if Vitality can continue this comeback we're seeing and send this back to, I guess, is it Mitch's cast?
I like Tom.
Yeah, Tom's cast. You can have that one,
Yeah.
Tom.
Yay. It's all yours, Tom. Go ahead.
I've been given this sort of power before. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I've released my iron grip for long enough time. It's time to get back into the game. 5-2 to Fnatic, and you heard it on the desk. You know, they had that great start, winning the bonus, being able to follow through, then losing to the Thrifty as well. That's given Vitality a way back in. It would have been a much longer road, facing down that 6-0 in a high-stakes buy round. Ults coming online for Fnatic.
They also, they used their ults there.
Exactly.
That was where they went. It was the Nightfall and the Showstopper as well. So, yeah, they've kind of... They had the opportunity for a pretty insane lead, but the response from Vitality, but you always felt like at some point they would find it. Thing is, though, Fnatic are not struggling just yet. This next round loss would put them in a bit more of an awkward spot, and you can see again just Durka trying to sell these fakes. The fight is going to be taken, and well, it's actually gone all right. I thought that Kayak wouldn't get anything from that, but finds an opener, gets some info. Now Vitality have to find another idea.
Well, it seems they're already pretty set on where this one's going. Wrap all the way around to the A site. They'll challenge that, feeling like the choke point's maybe a bit weaker. Without Kayak floating around to potentially be holding that long range with the off.
Fake teleport.
Vitality. The big idea is to have less play that late. Now, I did think they would go through mid with him, but he goes back for the ultimate outside B, signaling that they've still got presence there, but the Prowler from Crashies grabs info. That's going to stop the over-rotation from Alpha Air. He's still going to be here. for the push onto the site, or so they think. Push is coming in through heaven. A lot of space taken by Vitality already. Less's lurks have just been so good. And it comes back to Alpha. Same position as before. And they're not going to clear it. That's 2 for... Oh, no!
Oh, these are not going to forget that one in a while. It's so much time, and unfortunately, just the
The round's not over yet.
Not even just wasting the bullets of one gun, but wasting the bullets of 2. And this is what it's like to face up against your old teammate. You're gonna kick him while he's down.
What did they say on the desk earlier? Like, oh, you think there's some sort of a rivalry, but it's all friendly on social media. Well, this ain't social media. They're getting involved. The new guy's in there too. Oh, they're letting them know that we're down to a classic. Running out of ammo to dump into the bodies. That is wonderful. And the post plant from Vitality not even going to be challenged. Boaster hearing all those shots. I was going to say he must be wondering what's going on, but he knows Durka. I think he knows exactly what was happening. That's a whiff that's going to sit with Alpha Air for a long time.
Well, it's going to sit with him until he has a big round, which could be any moment. That's the one thing. I feel like there's some players that can get mentally boomed. And don't get me wrong, I feel like Alpha Year can be one of them at times. But I also feel like when he gets fired up, he aces you. So I think that maybe the frustration will be there, but I also think if you get this guy annoyed, he's going to come back at you swinging. So.
Holy shit. I think you can tell which team people are supporting by the reaction there. Some sat back in their seats, some sat way forward. That was phenomenal stuff. Oh, Alpha Year.
From Duck.
No, it was phenomenal from Alpha Year. It was one of my favorite plays he's made. Not so much his. And that replay, I think we got to see it.
Still have a buy here. Now, it's definitely not the best out of Fnatic. You got to judge potential for a Viper's Pit. Crash is going to be stuck down on a Guardian, and as I said, when it came to last week's performance, it was a really big part of them being able to win. Hasn't seen the same success just yet, but it is early days. But well, the early days of this map was a 5-0 start for Fnatic, and now it's starting to slip.
The great thing is, like, Les is so strong in his lurk game that even though they just faked A, there's 3 players here, I don't worry for a second that Les is going to get his by the end of the round. Rotation comes back to middle. Spike's been waiting outside B the whole round. The intention has always been to end there, but to pull as much as they could towards that A site. Now they shift to the left. The whole body does. 4 players into main, and again, Les has lurked through heaven. It's been flawless so far. Let's see if that continues. Gate crash going through to back site. Probably the same salvos we saw before. No, in fact, just a dive.
Oh, and in fact, that gives an opportunity. That's the spike down on the deck. Bear that in mind. Not a lot of time left for Vitality to try and work with. And Boaster, more importantly, Kayak is just going strong. This duo within the B site has been perfection. Or in-zone flawless, you could say.
It has indeed. An in-zone flawless round on the board. And yeah, I think the salvos must have been used a little earlier. They weren't online on the push through, but still, almost adding an extra layer to it, using the fake gate crash, the fake TP, instead of actually committing to it, but it didn't seem to cause any sort of a problem for Fnatic.
I'm pretty sure earlier when we had a replay for Boaster, he said, get me back on B. Well, I guess that's what happens when you do. Definitely having a strong individual performance. Okay, Doug has just been dope. Crashies decides to play ahead of the curve a little bit, and well, I guess you've seen Durka play for that ramp position so often. Just get up there and then retreat, teleport somewhere else on the map. This time he's punished.
There's a small risk of the walk up through heaven, but Boaster's just come in to fill that gap, so no real problems there for Fnatic. 3 players committed though to this half of the map, and then it sort of has to be. Puts a bit more pressure perhaps on Alpha Year. She's lined up. Engaged across. They lose heaven control. They can't hold it together. Have to instead split their gaze in both directions. Nade. Yeah, not quite going to land on the players that were caught off. This push from Vitality, it's going to have a lot behind it. But a look at the rotations from Fnatic now. There's about a whole squad's essentially here.
They even gave up the pit to be here. Stun, solid. Will force them back off the angle. have the potential for some isolated duels. Les is looking for that gap once again. Alfia was forced forward by the utility, but they still don't seem aware. Not going to connect the shots, but his teammates have found everything they need. 20 seconds up and coming on the clock. No ground, no from the shadows. And honestly, it looks like no hope. I think this has to be a save now.
Yeah, they've made that call as well. Even for Sevov, he's not safe.
10 seconds
Fnatic,
left.
they've got credits. They're going to go pushing forward, and more so than credits, they've got confidence. Kayak certainly does. 13-5, had a great game so far. Looks deep for the kill off of his flash. Ends up making it out alive, even though he missed a player in the corner. A big economy bolstering round for Fnatic, but with just 2 left, the question remains. You talked a lot about the attack side for both of these squads. Well, Vitality have got some ground to make up.
Oh, for sure. Oh, there's no doubt. A 7-3, and a lot of the streaks of rounds we've seen from Fnatic have been very dominant, very clean as well. So you're having a lot of finances going into the next few rounds. But I also really like the fact that even though you're talking about Fade alongside a Raze, not a whole lot of delay. The amount of time they bought for rotations there was sublime. Like, the C's nade may not have got a kill, but they did that early work. Kayak, aggressive position, much more so than before, and we see the same spread net set out by Vitality. Trying to watch for aggression, but also trying to find a gap.
A little bit less so now, leaving the A site a little bit more open. They still have a cam and a trap, but it's the fact they're not waiting for that aggression. But it's a B main spot and mid where they still had numbers. They catch off Kayak. Looking for a little more as well. There's an opportunity for Sevov. Boaster filled in the angle, even shot a few shots towards him. With a player in B main and one already down, B seems like an easy target. Chronicle's the only one standing in the way, and he gets caught by the decoy.
Oh, operator retreat, paranoia pass through, and Sevov is gone. Boaster predicted where his opponent was coming from, and more importantly, he's been able to hold on to B main.
Said it was only Chronicle standing in the way. Didn't think B main would be able to be held on to so deep into the round. Big push by Vitality.
Yeah, they know.
Don't commit it though. It's half committed. Durka even caught with his knife out. Luckily kicks Phil back into space and covers his retreat. A double pickup, and they know that Boaster is coming from B main. They've certainly heard the steps now confirming the rotate didn't come through, unless again from up in heaven. Who's surprised? Vitality, they were really slipping behind in this series, at least in those first 5 rounds. It looked scary, but looks like they're right back on the horse here.
Yeah, I really like the mid-rounding from Vitality. You had the realization that, okay, they're trying to get aggressive towards B main. They're going to expect us to, now we've got a kill to go in that direction. Let's take mid control. Let's find a gap elsewhere. They get the pick onto Chronicle. And even when they lose those sort of aggressive positions in B main, they go, okay, well, we need something else. Let's take spawn control. Let's fight the rotators to make sure that Fnatic don't get to just surround us. It's smart stuff in the mid round, and while Fnatic in this case weren't able to cope.
Boaster might be having the best half of his life. 14-3
there's
at the
nowhere
moment.
to go.
You are done and dusted here, Chronicle. Between the salvos and the Armageddon, there was no way out of there. Caught, and it's a dangerous position to play. Once that ult is online, you see exactly why here.
Yeah. That's the thing, yeah, once the ult's online, you either have to just gamble that you can rotate out fast enough, or just hope they leave a gap, but you also don't just want to give up that Vents control completely, because then your opponent can walk up on you.
And even if they don't, just putting a cage for your heaven is going to leave you with doubts in your A heaven for the rest of the round, so it's just not a good idea to leave it open. I agree, but there's the risk. The reward for Vitality. Rolling Thunder online for this B-side taken. Look where they are. Repositioned slightly by Crashies. He can avoid it, maybe provide a little bit of cover as they step out. In fact, even gets the C's down. That's going to slow them. TP to the backside. Durka stuck it. They know, though. They've seen this before. Catching him. Great reveal that would have forced the hand. Boaster on the double. Crashies can't hold on, though. They're able to recover the site, but getting across with the spike is another challenge. Kayak's back up in heaven. Almost takes safe out, the shot whizzing past his ear. 15 seconds, last round, no time to save. He's got to swing in, but that means crossing the operator of Kayak, and he's hit the shot anyways. Already 3 under his belt, the nade through, not going to deny. The blast pack won't do it either. Safe's gotten away with it, the salvos! It's a bold play, and not one that will work out in his favor.
I think he's trying to sell the idea that he's gone somewhere else, try and bait his opponent, but unfortunately Alfio was just that little bit too quick. A really nice round. I think mainly the utility that came out from Crashies was absolutely fantastic. The fake on the reveal, the use of the C's as well. Superb round to set up his teammates. Of course though, that is only the first half, Mitch. We'll be back after the break.
Nice, Alfia! Holy shit, I'm good as well. Actually, so...
These mushrooms make you feel better. Like
Back, folks. 8 rounds on the board for Fnatic. After a 5-0 start, though, hell of a recovery from Vitality. They really pulled up their boots. And now it's time to take the long run back into the lead. 4 rounds in a row. It starts with the pistol. But Tom, there's been some factors for Vitality that have been a little bit missing. With Fnatic having Boaster 16-4, and Kayak was on a 9-2 start, not ending that badly with a 2 KD. That's not the half that Vitality would have envisioned.
Yeah, no, I saw a sign out in the crowd that said they may have Durka, but we've got Kayak, and honestly, in this map so far, Kayak has definitely been the better of the two. Of course, you have to look at the way that Durka was playing, very aggressive with his TPs, trying to sell fakes, trying to push into certain spots on the defense. Got to be hopeful he can get a little bit more done and more kicks. Already going to be starting things off with a bang. Kayak is gone. There is a walk up in the meantime coming into B main. It looks, however, like the defense have decided to play this almost as a full retake. 4 players gathered up in towards that spawn area.
Yeah, they're gonna come blitzing through. Late play by Crashies is being spotted. Making it out of here, not quite so easy, tucked in the corner, but the fire from down below is lighting up the kill feed. Chronicle with the double. And the site now taken for a plant. They're not sticking it yet, still trying to bait more players into Chronicle's crosshair, and just seconds away from seeing that work. Oh, he's caught him off guard! It's a wonderful play! Leaving it down to Crashies to do it all, and they've spotted him too. What a round from Les already. With 35 seconds left, there's still time for Crashies to... Well, they're not behind him in main. That's what he was clearing there, so great information at least. Knows where both are, but dealing with Les seems to be a problem. 3-piece for him and a great recovery on a pistol round that was definitely in danger.
Yeah, I always find that with Les, when you're watching those attack sides, especially on a map like this, where he's going to get his one, he's going to be lurking in the back, maybe finishes off someone as they're trying to like wrap back around. But it feels like he's not invisible, but you just don't see much of him in that first half. And then you get into the second half and you remember who he is. It's where you're walking into his setups, where he's rotating back in. And, well, in this, it was just the perfect timing and quick reactions to pick off a double. Vitality now get that pistol under their belt, and that's the difference. This could have been Fnatic walking away 10-4 potentially in the lead instead, unless a Bucky's going to do some real work, which it might, no. 3 HP though.
They were a pixel closer to him, who knows? Les again It's the same old story.
See what I mean now?
Yeah. Yeah, that has nothing to do with setup or utility. This is just less. Oh, he got popping heads. Eventually, down goes
How's
Safe.
he got 3?
Yeah.
Like, the man only has a classic. This is always the thing when I feel like you watch Chronicle. You just see stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. And now, with a gun in hand,
Spike
a
planted.
Bulldog, the same as his opponents, one of them even tagged, and it's Chronicle. He has a chance.
Oh, but the shots don't land. Not in his favor this time. Vitality to take this round across the line, but I think it's fair to say they took a few more blows than they meant to in this one. It's going to be a bit more costly than it should have been, especially with Les, the guy who had basically nothing invested, coming through and just picking them apart up in heaven. The fact that Chronicle gets away with that, following up with another, and of course it was Les, injured from so much of that combat, and the same thing for Safe.
With a bookie on me. What a good boy.
A Bucky and a snake bite. Yeah, Safe hasn't had a fun round.
I think Les already has the same amount of kills in this half as he did the last, and that's not because he was particularly bad, it's just that he's got 2-3 Ks in the first 2 rounds. We'll see if that's a continuing trend. It does mean, oh, I was going to say, there's not the best of purchases, but that's not the start they were looking for. A few spam shots that Sivov has walked into. But there is still the aggression of Durka in mid. Now, getting out of this spot can be difficult, but he does have himself the gate crash, at least for now.
Fake teleport.
It's used as a fake, but another goes out. Drone heard inside of B main. Information for Fnatic that right now Vitality should be rotating, should be expecting this to be an A hit.
Safe just picked up the rifle as well, so that has been retrieved.
The numbers will be ready for this A push. 3 players in position. You've got to get through Les's setup as well, and if one goes down, he'll have that information off the back of his ultimate, the neural theft. But look at where Boaster is, still sitting outside that B site. We could easily see a wrap back through the vents to try to meet him, and the only man that could stop them would be Safe. So his hold up in heaven, and that's exactly what's happening. Safe's hold is so important here. He's just missed Boaster, stepping through that angle. He might catch him here. Oh, he's being caught instead. And now the door is wide open for a plant.
And that timing couldn't be any better. That was the one sort of saving grace of this position, is having Safe potentially be able to cut them off on the rotation. Him going down, it is just a yellow brick road all the way back to the B site. Still with a lurk left in middle, so something that has to be wary from the defense. And a lot that they need to find here.
Oh, that was close. Just off by a little, and that would have really bridged the gap for Vitality. Chronicle hasn't been spotted. Taking a leaf out of Les's book.
Okay.
One pick, that'll spur them forward, but also gets Chronicle to make his play. The dagger in the back, and now they don't know how they can go forward. Constantly worried about that backstab. Les, one to swing out first, does damage to Chronicle. Or Crashies, I should say. Chronicle still up in heaven and may need to hurry up. Catches one, kicks with 2, but it's not enough. Too many bodies from Fnatic, and Chronicle's lurk paying off dividends.
The thing you now have to think about is how costly that was. That was a 4v5, you dropped a player immediately, and now you've ended up with none of your players surviving. You're going to have to drop down to the light shields immediately. I can see on the scoreboard, Durka has bought up the Outlaw. They're looking to go farming. So considering it was a bonus, okay, it had a few rifles in there that maybe they would have wanted to try and win, but I think the damage is honestly
First time someone
enough.
checked me.
And also, you have to talk about Vitality in that round being a little bit unlucky. Like Safe being caught, he checked that spot moments ago. Durka being caught, checking that spot moments ago. I think they could be relatively happy with that round, even if it's annoying.
Well, Chronicle comes in with a Viper's Pit ready to work with. B-side is the target. If they can get that pit down, there's a lot of trouble for Vitality, but Sivov able to pick off the first. Max already TP'd into the back of the site, but he's not got any real opportunities, barely avoiding the breach utility, but taking a big, heavy tag down to 45 HP. Good pickup by Durka, and they thought the Kayak had left. They thought the utility had cleared him out, but he gave his position away. Boaster on 8 is the last man standing, and he won't stand any longer. Vitality 2 rounds behind after a 5-0 start. This is looking like the game is far from over, even on their defensive side.
The crazy thing is, I feel like Seabov started this one off with like the craziest game of aim training you've ever seen. It's like, okay, I gotta pick up the Prowler, shoot the guy jumping, I gotta spin around, try and shoot the horn, and still survive.
I knew he was backside,
all of it.
but I thought
Like,
Fem
it
said he
just
TP'd
manages
out.
to do it.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. One of them knew he was backside, but it didn't come.
I love the face. It's like, well, yeah, you knew. You knew.
It was a good point, though. He thought he TP'd out. The breach utility should have cleared him. A Kix was just a little off with that, giving him a gap, and a gap that very nearly, well, could have cost him the round. In another world, it would have. Fnatic down on pistols, though. It's a classic buy and full eco for the squad. How things have been going. Should be a Vitality clean up. Though the first is a trade.
They're losing a lot of players to classics. This is an obscure angle. I don't think I've ever seen a scope that far zoomed in on something. I feel like that's like when someone has to read with like a magnifying glass. Like you're a little bit too close to that one. But it's Durka. Still managed to hit the shot. Spike found. Know where that's going to be, and unfortunately any lurks, any sneaky plays are getting picked apart. Yeah, I know for a fact that Durka for a moment was like, I'll knife him, and then realized maybe not in this round. Maybe not when I could throw my gun to an opponent and when two of my teammates have light shields.
That's the other thing, right? Only Les could have taken a blast from that outlaw. It's got two barrels. Alfier, he's walking into heavy traffic. Les was there, and I don't think he'd expect Seabov to be in position either. 9-8, one round between them for Vitality. That's got to feel like a real olive branch being extended. The fact that they came in slow to start, and even the fact that they found that, what was it, a full thrifty round. They had like 4 classics and a sheriff and ended up picking up their first that way. That's given them these foundations to build on and be so close to the score of their opponent. Close enough that Fnatic start to panic. They're calling a timeout here.
I think the rough thing for Fnatic was, of course, having that round victory, but one that you have no players surviving. So the thing's becoming incredibly costly. And then a lot of the aggression hasn't really worked out for them. Even the sort of classic B-site combo where you have like the gate crash to the back of the site and then you have the raise run through. It felt quite easy for Seabov to isolate a duel and still get out of there because of counter utility that was being thrown in. I think Kix, as always, has been doing an excellent job of at least making those fights. Okay, he may have forgot to calm the kayak was there, but he did a lot of damage to him and made sure that he couldn't fight Seabov in the initial battle.
Also forgive him because he was pretty certain that he'd pushed him out of the position. Just a tiny bit of misutil.
He's a breach. He's got other things to do, you know?
He's busy. He's busy. You want a breach that doesn't calm things. No, but obviously it's a flash in the pan. Good to see as well during that timeout. You've got Scut and Milan. Milan's someone that for a long time I think we've desired seeing in that head coach position. Done a lot of work for a lot of teams behind the scenes, and obviously we've seen him in the assistant coach spots, but him getting his chance, especially at a team like this, I don't think that's a chance that he will let fumble anytime soon. 9-8, one round between them. Fnatic, they've got their full buy. They've got some ultis to work with as well. Still waiting to see Crashies once they get the site, put that Viper's pit into play. Oh, and it doesn't matter. The Viper's got a bite to it in the pit or not.
I think he was literally like a few milliseconds away from getting a collat. Like they lined up perfectly for Durka, but his opponent was quicker on the trigger. Now look to continue that space. That's the thing. Look at where the rest of the players are, though. They are spread across the map. You've got a deep hold towards B, and okay, sure, Kayak's taken space alongside that Viper screen, but I think they're just going to leave him in position because the defense have rotated heavily here. And I thought, okay, maybe you'd look at the ults and see like a from the shadows, there's a chance for a quick rotation. It's not that. They are fully reliant on Les to hold on to B if they go that way. And honestly, I'm okay with it.
I can understand it. Yeah, you play the retake if needed, and with the ults that they have, why not?
And it's less.
And it's less, indeed. But of course, Rolling Thunder almost being online, but even the stun from Breach alongside salvos and an Armageddon can easily turn the tide of a site take. It has, and the rotation's coming in, but it's surely not. They're taking a while to get to backside, actually. they'll be here on time to potentially disrupt that plan depending on utility. And with 12 seconds, that's not ideal. In comes the Armageddon, 10 seconds on the clock. We're down to the last chance. The plant needs to be stuck. If they can interrupt, it could change the game, but they're not there on time. And the full stick is cancelled! A huge piece of utility. Kicks may have made a mistake with that very same util before, but this time, the Aftershock hits hard.
I wonder if he calmed that one. I've got him. That is just
Dirk, he's behind
on
the box.
timing. Yeah, that's the thing. A little bit slow. The Nightfall gave the game away. Yeah, as I said, that was an almost guaranteed collat. But it was the Aftershock, just held until the last few seconds. That is literal perfect timing coming out of Kicks. And as I said, he's someone that is just incredibly intelligent player when it comes to this initiator. 9-9, scoreline equalized. Weaponry now, a bit of an issue. Ultimates either online or getting close, other than the one that was utilized in the last round. And while Dirk is already going to kick things off with a pick. I think it was one of the guns as well, right? Yes, Kayak's just picked it up.
That last coming down to the wire, putting Vitality neck and neck, putting the economy ahead for them. This is huge. Yeah, the damage done to Kayak is massive. Again, that Viper's Pit still online for Fnatic. In a round like this, you'd love to have it. But with Chronicle picked off early, that option completely gone, and with it, a lot of the hope for this round to fall into their hands. Alfier, one of those rifles, fighting solo, not able to find a result, and very quickly turns tail from mid. They're going to group up, and maybe we'll even see, like, Kayak 6 HP with the Vandal. It could go to someone else. Boaster's been having a good game. Let's see.
Group up first. Well, Safe maybe getting a little bit more information than he bargained for. Takes a tag, solid paranoia. Sivov decides to delay instead, and with those salvos, again, that clock is being burnt dangerously low. I think Vitality are doing a great job at cycling that utility and just making these fights so incredibly awkward. Back they go towards the A site. Durka honed in with the sniper, but he gets taken out by Alfia. You mentioned that rifle, it's still in hand again. They need to cross to the side, and they just about spot out Safe in the last second. Alfia's revenge from what was that previous half. And now even has the showstopper. Nobody is going to be facing, but shoots it a little early. That gives Sivov a chance.
Yeah, that's tough. Showstopper, even just to buy that extra time, but as soon as it's fired off, they know they've got an opportunity, capitalizing on it. Rolling Thunder goes through to the backside, heavy pressure, put on these players now, mostly stuck here. Boaster's playing post plant, but you can't run down that much time with the Stars. He needs to pick off a few, and in fact, they're even blocking the Star as the grab well comes in, trying to get that little bit of extra space, and although it won't work out, kills go their way. And with plenty of time on the clock, so too does the round. 10-9. Vitality started this out 5-0 down, and they've just taken the lead on a side where we expected them to put up less rounds. Well, that's certainly not been the case so far.
No, and I think as well, this was a really good recovery. Like after what was, I think, a fantastic start to the round, it was basically just a sandwich. The middle of it went Fnatic's way, where they were able to get in late, they were able to find a pick, they were able to get a showstopper, but that's maybe the slight overheat. Like, I understand it. You wanted to make sure that your teammate was safe while planting, so you try and get aggressive, but the second it is fired, an immediate swing from Sivov, good read on his opponent, and then having that Rolling Thunder to get them back into the site, courtesy of Kicks having again a sublime game. And again, you look at the scoreboard at the moment, and I would say it's somewhat the unusual suspect. Kicks at the top of the board, Boaster at the top of the board. I don't think too many people would have called that coming into this map.
Yeah, we've seen before the Breach have a field day on this map in particular. So many tight laneways for you to individually use your utility, but especially when you're coming in with a Breach Tejo combo, I sort of expect it to be Safe being the highlight, taking advantage of all those pieces of utility.
Just sat back on the map somewhere, just activating stuns for whoever needs it, like the old DRX style.
That's usually what you're going to be relegated to, but Kicks has had a real fingerprint on most of these rounds, and for Vitality, it's been a saving grace. If he's a little quieter, Fnatic are in the lead and probably about to close out this map, but instead, Fnatic's map pick now under heavy threat. We've seen pauses called by them as well to try to combat this, but the momentum carries on in favor of the defense. That's now 6 out of 7 rounds in this half. We move on to the next, where, again, the credits are very low for Fnatic.
So correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kayak was 14-7.
Accurate at the halftime.
Now 14-14.
Yep.
So it has been, he's been silenced. Like, that's it. He's been silenced. And again, we mentioned it when we talked about Durka and his need to almost teleport into risky areas. And now we're seeing the other side of it. It can be rough to be a Yoru on the attack. Fact is, though, Durka now has the Operator and the Dimensional Drift. The same can be said for the other side with the Dimensional Drift, at least, and a Viper's Pit. Something to get them in and something to hold on. Immediately, Kayak is going to look to try and take that space, but it's a ruse for the other side of the map.
Durka thins the herd, and again, a round where Chronicle wants to put that ult into play. Kayak with a risky maneuver, but they needed to recover something on that push. Unfortunately, it's left them in a really tough spot. 5v2 now with Safe taking down Alphier, and Crashy's hold as he might. He's separated from his teammate. He's all alone, and you can't hold all those angles. Not when Vitality are flooding back in. It feels like there's a couple rounds now where we've seen Fnatic want to make it to a site. The Chronicle just gets eliminated immediately. You lose your wall, you lose your post-plant ability. Even if they got site control and he was still one of the members moving in there, Pit goes down and you've got a real chance. You can divvy up the map a little bit easier, but they have been stopped at the word go every time.
10 seconds left.
It's definitely impressive. Again, you're looking back to a lot of the victories that we've seen out from this Vitality squad, and it was sort of reliant on heavy attacks. You go back to maybe the loss they had to T1 on Split, it was because they had a poor attack side. This time, though, it's almost looking like they're one of their first games when they played versus Foot, 11-1 defense. Well, maybe that's where we're going, because there's only been one round in this half for Fnatic, and I also have to caveat with they had 0 players surviving in that one round, so there has not been anything particularly competitive, and if it has, I feel like Vitality have been doing great work to recover. Now with the wind at their back, confidence flowing after some quieter starts, I don't know, I think there needs to be something drastic to change for Fnatic if they're going to be able to take this map home.
Decent enough investment from Fnatic. They'll still have mostly credits for the next, and any weaknesses can maybe be bolstered down by a site take with a Pit going down, but with Chronicle's first deaths so far, not sure that that's something you want to build a plan around. Vitality have done very well at being disruptive, whether it's Durka getting aggressive for those early picks.
I think the salvos as well from Safe. Like, we're used to him, go back a year or two, just first man in taking battles, but I think his salvos have been so disruptive. A good start though, that's less down, and a lot of the time that's a solo anchor. You can see Alfie is going to try make a move off of it. The stun is perfect. The supportive util for Boaster, and then the swing from Kayak.
Yeah, that's worked out wonderfully. I think a little bit whiffy up in heaven before the stun landed, but gets there in the end. Well, gets there in the end for Alfie. 9 rounds turning into 10, most likely. And the question for Safe and Durka is whether they go for it. They've got credits to throw at this one, but in a 2v5, it just feels wasteful, especially when you want to build up as many opportunities to contest in rounds as possible with this kind of a lead. It's only 2 rounds, and as we said, soon to be 1. Chronicle up, trying to catch these players off. Again, the economy of Fnatic, because of the investment they made here, being a little middling, keeping credits over for the next, they can afford to take risks, especially if it comes at the cost of, or with the benefit of removing the operator, which is exactly what they get. Crashes with a double, and in-zone flawless for Fnatic, and well, that's the first round this half that feels repeatable.
Yeah, it was.
Out of 2.
The first one they won with players alive. But that, then, an in-zone flawless, meaning that you come out with everybody standing. It is going to help them, especially if they were to slip up anywhere along these last few rounds
really
before
nice
overtime.
Really nice shot out here.
Oh, Boaster, I think, trying to build the confidence back up. We mentioned Alfia having that whiff early in the game, having a few moments that are not very Alfia-esque. But a decent one when they needed it most. Durka looking to respond in kind. He still had his ultimate for a while, another get out of jail free card, but instead this time the gate crash will be enough. I think Fnatic are very well prepared for these sort of plays. especially with how Seavolf has been as well. He's been a very aggressive Omen on this defense.
You can see the idea here for Fnatic. They're almost playing against themselves when they were on the defense, playing for mid control and looking on the extremities for any sort of aggression, but Vitality aren't taking a bite of that. They're happy with this more passive mid control, so they're not actually losing anything. Therefore, they don't have to react. And especially with the A-site solo hold from Les and Cam up in heaven, they have so much information right now that to push B main or something like that would just be an unnecessary risk. We'll ignore that PC utility, although I did still bring it up. But as Fnatic look for some control, 40 seconds left, and they haven't really moved out of the traditional sort of spawn map control that you get.
It's so long to get back control of the vents after it was received in any sound made.
30 seconds left.
Would be the Armageddon, something they're definitely wary of. I'm a bit nervous now, getting into the remaining 25 seconds. Off the top goes Alfia, needs this opening onto Les, and that's exactly what he finds. He actually had the spike as well. They sent that through over the top for him to get that plant, and that's exactly what he's done. A man advantage as Vitality are looking to challenge.
Yeah, they're looking to commit to this. Understandable indeed. You've highlighted there, Crashy's late play through mid, and it's going to be off Chronicles' contact as they move up through heaven. They'll be trying to fire a few shots off from the side, spot the info, allow Crashies to come up and capitalize. In goes the stun, and the backside push commences. 5 seconds until salvos. We can't wait for them. It's time to take ground here and now. Fnatic need this round, and Alpha seems content to lock it in with kicks down. They might almost retreat. The time is too far gone. They've caught Crashy, sure, but it's a consolation prize. The round will still go to Fnatic. Viper's Pit still there. Chronicles had it for a while. 11-11, neck and neck. We're going the distance on this map, one way or another.
There is a reason. I always am hopeful that this map ends up as the third, as it always seems to give some of the best maps of Valorant, and this one has been a contest throughout. As I said though, that was integral from Alfia. I do like, again, the way that Safe is utilizing those Armageddon ults, but he was the one sort of blip, the fact he's able to get, and it's kind of what I said about him. Like, sometimes maybe you could show him out of a game, but you get him annoyed, you get him a little bit pumped up, and Alfia starts swinging back, still lower down on the board. But you think of the last 2 rounds, from 11-9 down, he's been the main player doing the work.
Who do I have to pay, how much, and where do I wire the money? Just to hear what he said in that clip. That's all I want to know. I want to hear that. I want to experience it. The rest of Fnatic got to, and I think that would have lifted up the confidence a little bit, lifted the morale across the board for Vitality. Well, they swept back into this with a phenomenal, what, 7 or 6 out of 7 rounds? Or 7 out of 8 even better. And at that point, you know, you're feeling like the game is under your thumb. But maybe they took their foot off the gas, or maybe Fnatic found another gear, whatever it is.
But they've been able to pick off less. That's the last 2 rounds. It was Alfia finding a 1v1 on Les, winning it, it opens up B. This time, they have a lot of counter utility to help. He goes over the top, finds Les. That's the opening on A. Those 2 picks changed around massively, because as I said, he is someone that's incredibly difficult to dig out of positions, but it also removes all utility. Everybody else can sweep in after, and definitely makes those holds a little bit tougher for Vitality, of course. Not done yet. They still have a purchase. Safe actually going to be the one manning the operator now. Getting aggressive in towards B main.
Now, Fnatic have been trying to bait out those pushes, get Vitality to play into their hands in a lot of these rounds. And a lot of it has been based around a bit of mid-control. Traps outside A and seeing what happens. But Chronicles moving away from that A side. They're not going to be watching it at all as they now look to late commit to mid-control and take over a little bit of B main. Previously, it's been battles up against Seavolf, if any.
Yeah.
But now the op being there caught them by surprise, and in a round like this, that's exactly what you wanted. Opening pick and Fnatic on the back foot.
He's taken though. Wow. A little bit cheeky from Boaster, looking to try and take the rounds into his own hands. I don't think Dirk is going to be forgetting about that one anytime soon. Kicks to respond. Aftershock to try and delay, but Chronicle's already on the other side of it. Doesn't expect anybody else to be that close. Back to level peg, and again, Safe looking to go through the additional utility, just waiting for someone to try and hit that cross, and now just happy to take that man advantage.
No time to pick. Chronicle stuck in the corner, and Les won't let him out. Kayak grabs one after the plant, but the reposition needed. The steps heard, and Seavolf on his trail. 12 rounds now for Vitality, a hard-fought battle, but one they found. They will have an even harder battle ahead of them, though, Tom, because, well, look, I think I've said it a few times, the Viper's Pit's online, Tom. I don't know if you noticed that. Also a showstopper for Alpha here.
A lot of these rounds have though been done before we've got to the retake. Like, this one was more so safe. Going back to what we know him for, these aggressive operator plays, taking space in B main, and then being a bit cheeky on the edge of the utility. At this point, Fnatic may be expecting that they would be respected a little bit more, and that wasn't the case at all. Now, it's going to change it up again. Durka back on that operator. He still had his ult for a very long time, but as I said, a lot of these ultimates end up being situational. And if the picks go the way of Fnatic, for the most part, they haven't needed it.
You have a fairly easy solution for Fnatic in going Showstopper for entry and then Viper's Pit to claim the site. But that 1-2 punch is going to be expected, and often Vitality will play back from it now in terms of what they have to respond, keeping safe, for example, alongside salvos, alongside, well, yeah, exactly. We've got Sivov playing inside B main. But the utility that's in play for Vitality, minus the drone now, could easily clear that back out. So I don't mind Fnatic not going barriers up, get in, take the site, because the reaction could still be there. But late on, that's exactly what the play is going to be. Leaving the pit late into mid, fired up into heaven was the showstopper, but it won't land value, not in the form of a kill, but it's done damage, and it's sent Vitality into a deeper hold. But now, they're seemingly looking to retake that space. Kicks inside of utilities, pushing forward alongside his teammate Sivov. They don't want to relinquish control, and that could be their biggest mistake. Alpha popping off with players soon to emerge from that smoke.
That was the second one placed, but the time on it is ticking. This is so many enemies to try and find, and Alfia just isn't stopping. We are going to overtime after another in-zone flawless. Fnatic break back, and I'll be honest, that's now 3 rounds that we've seen of the last 4 that I'm going to give credit to Alfia.
Absolutely. Yeah, this step up has been night and day, and you look back, I think since that whiff that he had and the 300 odd bullets shot into his corpse, I don't know whether that got in his head, but definitely the performance hasn't been there. There's been some whiffy moments, but he's warmed up now. He's getting excited. He's on his feet. Also a check-in as we get into our first round of overtime. Chronicle will not have the Viper's Pit.
Okay.
I feel like that's worth highlighting because, like, I had it the whole game, but they never had an opportunity to use it, and I think that feeds into Vitality's aggressive, disruptive comp, how in their face they were being, and how unlucky Chronicle was in some of those early duels. He was the guy taking the flak of the op shot.
Go back in level. Always expected this series to be a contest, but overtime in map number 1. Might be in for a long, long day. Chronicle is in trouble. He's tried these aggressive positions. A lot of times the salvos were utilized in towards the vents. He tries to play in front of the vents and they use it in front instead.
He's, again, those early fights on the attack. Didn't matter if he was first, second, or third. It felt like their bullets were just magnetized to his body. But this time around, it's the utility that does him in, grabbing him in that tight position and not letting him go. Vitality move to the A site. Got Crashies and Kayak holding the line, and Crashies has done pretty well, usually in a bit more of a passive spot, and I think that would be because you have Kayak in play. The trap had caught it. Crashies doesn't know there's players right around this corner, the entire team, in fact, coming his way, and that cage perfectly blocks what could have been a one and done, or at least a chance to get out. The gate crash
so alone.
moving
Look,
to
they
backside.
are on the other side. There's 3 players currently on B. They gambled in completely the wrong direction. They gate crashed away from this position. So now he has tried to delay. He's utilized whatever he can. Now it just comes down to, can he hold on to this backside? Can he take somebody with him? Otherwise this retake's going to be incredibly difficult. But he steps up when needed. A 3rd kill for Crashies. He was left on an island, but somehow he has survived. This puts that timer, that clock on. Less already is the last man standing, and while Crashies has pulled out a hero round that never should have been.
The best part about that is you see him go by and they're like, Alpha's on site, you deal with him real quick. And he just comes in with the shorty, raining down hell.
How did he get 3? Like, that's literally, just moments ago, we saw a rotation from Kayak to the other side of the map going, okay, we think this is a B site here. He is at the back alone, no one anywhere near him, and manages to get 3. We talked about this guy back at kickoff as at times being a bit underwhelming. Maybe not being at that level anymore, but wow.
Austin Roberts.
That was some vintage Crashy's gameplay, and honestly, after last week, I was like, okay, can he do this versus the big boys? Yes, he can do this versus the big boys.
He just did, right in front of our eyes. You see, that play even got Scut up on his feet. Milan's hand must hurt after that.
They're still in the camera shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, he crouched down a little bit. He knew the roof kept him at a reasonable height. But honestly, 13-12, Fnatic already providing us with a wealth of entertainment. Now they move to their attack side, but this is where the struggles have been. And in regulation, we saw all 4 timeouts used, but we moved to OT, so more come online, and Vitality popping it in right away. They know that the Fnatic of old, they just walk away with this. Once they're given that lead back, there's no contesting it. For Vitality, well, they've stolen one of those players, Durka. I called him the prodigal son, and at least towards the start of the game, I guess he hadn't returned. He was a little slow to start. Will be one hell of a time to step up.
It feels like the second it gets into OT, into the late game, Fnatic, I don't know if they're injecting their players with like the BS gene, like creating super soldiers, but whatever it is, it's working.
Here.
A play that has given them an advantage maybe they shouldn't have had. A man down, 3 found alone on site. But to take their map choice, they might just need one more.
Vitality have been fighting around mid. Certainly got the utility to do so. Deep flash and Haunt fired right in onto them. Don't know if they noticed there's 2 players there. I think they might have with how quick those shots came through. I think a step back for whatever reason. And a very late play. Chronicle was playing right around here. Spotted that the drone came through from Tejo, that they would have A main cleared, gets himself into a corner. He's again looking for that reaction for Vitality to get it aggressive, but that hasn't really been happening. Again, this is a team that is content to give up that space and really fight them on the site itself. They don't want to fight in the beaches.
Recovering it.
Time is ticking though. This was one of the real cruxes of the attack side from Fnatic, hitting these sites with nigh on 15 seconds left.
30 seconds
maybe
left.
they had a pick by them, maybe they had some info. Right now, Safe is still set up and ready, still actually has those salvos available. Timing is going to be everything for them. 20 seconds left on the clock. He's now got kicks alongside, and that said, he has bought them extra time.
12 seconds. They pick Durka. Still 2 on the site, though. Do they have the read? Kicks finds 1, and from the smoke comes Safe. 6 seconds. Plant needs to be found! But first, you gotta find Kicks. 4 kills on the backside. He says, Crashy's hold my beer. He'll do one better. Neck and neck, and another overtime. We thought this could be a belter of a series, Tom. I didn't think the first map would go this hard. Can't wait to see Lotus and Haven.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll wait as long as we need to. Give me more OTs.
Normally you warm up a little bit. You get into the late game where you get these clutch plays out. Maybe everybody's a bit more exhausted, but it's just absurd.
Nice! Thank you!
Oh, that's the most like polite. You don't have to mute Faded, guys. He's just going to say thank you instead. Safe, under pressure. A very aggressive stance, but they retreat off it. Not wanting to give up the opener as the full force of Vitality rotate back into support. Not wanting to leave a man out alone, and well, pace is then immediately slowed back down. Althea, as said, I think his confidence has been building and building. The last 3 rounds of regulation, Fnatic managed to garner were under his belt. You can see that in this defensive side as well. I don't think we witnessed him this deep in B main. Maybe we saw others, but I think this is more of a confidence play.
Oh, Chronicle! Finally, the first death will be avoided. He's the one to pick off Durka. Big one to find as well. Vitality, though, they're going to stay strong in their play towards this A site, moving up into heaven. He said Kayak, playing that little deeper, but it's going to be sold as a fake. They won't know that there's a player aggressive because Crashies is in that same old position, playing passive. He's drawing their eye. Sends in the C's as well, and Kayak gives his position away, but it's well worth it. Landing himself the pick. And they know there's still one in heaven. Sivov down low. TP, he won't get away. Oh, he will! Barely avoiding those shots in the smoke down to cover his retreat. No, he will not make it to sight, though. The spam through that smoke picks him off and leaves one player less. Good in the clutch, but no time to even plant the spike. This round is done, and it falls in favor of Fnatic.
seemed like Fnatic in this round did excellent work giving up space, but then having a response to whatever they gave up. Like they managed to find that opening pick, as you mentioned, Chronicle just through a gap in the smoke, but then they know, okay, we've given up the vents, Crashy's repositions to hold on to it. They then have aggressive control of the stairs as well to make sure that, okay, he can flip back around and fight alongside. Without much presence, that's... I was about to say, I knew he spammed, but I didn't think he caught him that early. That's a little bit unlucky for Sevov, but I think by that point the round was already firmly in the favor of Fnatic. The coaching staff had decided we're actually going to take a pause after the victory, wanting to close out this map here and now. It has been a defensive marvel throughout the game. It was only those, like, obviously the last 3 rounds coming in and a 3 cluster in the middle as well that sort of maybe made us think the tide would change at some point. Someone has to break that run of defense rounds eventually.
Well, you're seeing it there. This pause maybe even called by Boaster. Maybe it was called by the coaching staff just to reset the mental, get them on the straight and narrow. It's been a long game. The longer it goes on, the more you know you've put into it, the more that it feels like is on the line. You can see deep breaths from the coaches. You can only imagine how the players feel. 14-13. One more for Fnatic, and things started to go right in that last one. We've seen Chronicle with that early pickup. Boaster still paving the way for the squad. And Vitality seeing the same struggles. But this defense, it's where they've been putting up those rounds. They looked great swapping into the second half. A revitalized team. Let's see if it's the same in overtime number 2.
Idea is to try and sell Althea as a ruse while the rest of the team go back, but an aggressive position from Durka is one that's going to be difficult to hold on to. Obviously trying to bait him out with the teleport back, but the fake smoke
Spike down B.
works out in Durka's favor. And Crashy's down already.
She's gone, indeed. 3 players around this position as well. 2 players make that with Sevov down. 1 up in heaven, Kicks not yet spotted. And that TP into backside from Kayak has gotten them so much space to play with. Althea on the lurk, but he's being caught. Les knows that game. It's not one you're likely to beat him on. Numbers back in favor of the defensive side. And a retake, not even needed yet. Salvos come in to delay the plan.
General irritation. Obviously Fnatic this time with a lot more on the clock. Plant will now be in their favor. Aftershock to try and create a more awkward scenario for Kayak, but he's not really been cleared. Even still, Kicks manages to win the battle, and just like that, they fall like dominoes. It is a quick retake from the side of Vitality. We go again.
Quick indeed. Quite, I mean, we say it sometimes, but blink and you miss it. Genuinely, I feel like that was synchronized. The opening pick by Durka onto Crashies as well, causing problems. You don't have that same ability to reveal them. Grab the information. We saw Sevov put in that precarious position. Les, if he goes down there, the round is in trouble with Alpha still roaming around and the potential for the spike to move back in the other direction. But after the pause, it seems like Vitality were the ones to make best use of that time down. 14-14, overtime number 3. The Fnatic are back on the defense. The B-side hold from Boaster has been strong enough that I'm surprised Vitality don't just start on the A.
I think a lot of the time, though, we saw both teams having that success. Running into the B side, it was the aggressive take, the pause, and then going back for it. But a lot of the time, that was when Boaster had swapped.
Yeah.
I think with his utility, he's much more able to slow them, but also isolate the player at the back of the site. That was the issue. If somebody TPs to the back of the site and you don't have anything to cover, you can't turn and face because you're stuck in the mud. Here, though, some early presence shown. You can already see at the back. Gate crash, 4 rotations have been thrown in. Clear that there's an idea. Maybe there's going to be a ruse sold. I'm looking at safe outside B main. Potential for maybe a salvo or 2 to be thrown in just to sell the idea there on that side of the map.
Look at how much space they've given up over on Fnatic. You have to be worried about the Vents push-up now because there is just no information to play with. Chronicle steps out wide, picks one but goes down. TP comes in, gate crash used to good effect by Kayak, and the clone going through. It confirms that he's here. They start to suspect maybe those rotations have come into play. And so the B site will be a bit more open. They've made the right call. But Boaster on the B site, well, he called earlier, let me back on B. And here he is, but he has to hold off against the whole squad. 12 seconds. Plant needs to be connected very soon. That paranoia, perfect from Seavoff. That's a double pickup from him with the paranoia alongside his buddies. And now a plant that should be difficult for Fnatic to get back into. That jump was heard, and Durka's more than ready for the angle from Crash. He's a cleanup for Vitality and an attack side win, setting them up to potentially close this map out.
Well, you look back at how this has gone so far, Fnatic have been the ones that have had opportunities to close out this map, at least in overtime. Yeah, Boaster pretty much left out to dry. That was an attempt, I believe, to try and find whoever was planting, but a bit of an obscure plant position thrown out by Vitality, knowing the risks of him still being on that site. Now with their chance to close out this game, they head onto the defense. Both teams have been thriving, but as we know, when you get into OT, it matters not.
Alpha's still around B main. This is where Durka's caused problems, but he's pushed in that little bit deeper. Push doesn't come through, so the alarm, or boom bot rather, put into play. Durka was waiting for the repeat, but it's not coming through.
It's the same spot as the last defensive OT, so I think Durka sat there thinking, they're not going to expect me to do the exact same thing twice.
They wanted that drone to see them. There's no way that Chronicle didn't know that was coming into play. It's been pushing up in A main when they don't give contact every round. We even saw him not long ago play behind this box on his own, so the drone didn't see him and he could fill in the space. They knew that they were going to show 2 players there. And then nothing. A complete freeze, a complete stoppage on the play, and Fnatic start to rotate over. I'm curious if they think maybe Vitality will have started to leave the A site, leave it a bit more open with just less here. That's not the case.
No, I think because Durka still has complete vision into B main, there's not really been a mass reason to pull those rotations away. Also, someone normally challenges him, so instead they're going to go walked into a pretty stacked up site. The TP stun is perfect though. That safe eliminated immediately, but still they have to try and deal with less. This time he comes up Trump, still sat at the back of the site. A second already dropped, looking for more, but eventually dealt with. And now Durka, the man returning to face his old team, is all that stands. His IGL on the other side, and well, anything you could do, we could do better. Fnatic, they'll pull up an attack side round as well.
That's really impressive as well, because Vitality were ready for that A hit.
Yeah.
They had passive play in mid, giving it up completely. We even saw a smoke from Vitality on the defense into B heaven to stop that angle from being peaked, because they didn't know if the push-up was coming. But it was a gamble, and I think it comes from the fact that Fnatic have not played mid. If anything, the only time they've really been around mid for that early fight is when they go into A heaven and then go back through vents.
Nice!
So the take instead was set around, let's give up mid, let's gamble that they won't take it, and stack the A side a bit more heavily. It worked, at least in terms of having numbers for the fight, but still, Fnatic are able to break through. Another OT. Oh, and Kayak in a risky position, but one that has a wealth of rewards. A 2-piece pickup, and Vitality miles behind in this attack round.
Crash used to do that before, expecting Durka to try and be cheeky on the cross, and that's the second time he's been punished for the exact same play. Obviously about 10 rounds between the last time it happened. Crashy's less in a 1v1, and less has taken it home. Still though, a hefty rotation of players. Boaster trying to make sure the cross to sight is not going to be an easy one, and they've also lost the battle within Heaven, leaving just 2 standing, and they know exactly where Kicks is going to be. Less to try and fight back, needs an ace to take it, and while with Dimensional Drift just basically being as awkward as possible. Kayak now comes up with a 4K of his own, and Fnatic now with another chance to close.
Well, that's it. The focus is very much around Durka playing his old team, and of course that's a very deep storyline with all the international events they've not just played at together, but won together as well, and the EMEA ones too, let's not forget. He got the bucket. But for Fnatic, having someone like Kayak coming up against Durka, if you have a bad game, the immediate comparison is going to be,
Holy shit, I did like insanest flick, bro.
Yeah, he just did the wall bang.
But the comparison's always going to be that, oh, well, Kayak's not as good as Durka. It's a downgrade. If they lose the game, oh, it's because Kayak didn't. If that was Durka there, man, he would have had 40. The reality is he's not only doing better than Durka, but he has had rounds that are all down to him. Big confidence builder for such a young talent. Although he's been through the ringer himself. 16 to 15. A chance for Fnatic to close out their map pick and forget how close this has been. Take a little bit of a breather before they move on to Lotus, where Vitality decided to take it today. The attack side again, we're seeing the same sort of scenario play out, waiting for that aggression. Drone changes position this time. It's going to get a bit of information that they're waiting outside mid, something that hasn't been seen in a lot of these rounds.
Back once again. Oh, Durka has hit that shot onto Chronicle, an attempted retreat, and he will not get away. Not this time. Viper screen now offline, and because of that, they're going to sell the idea that they're going into the B side. I like the idea. Look at the rotation. That is the full squad going through the spawn. Everybody feeding their way back to B. You've just lost your lurker over on the A side. You see an immediate response over on the B side. You expect that to be the complete commitment. But instead, they're walking into a free A side. Of course, Fnatic have to take the time to do so. Have to take the time to get in. But they'll have a post plant and a potential late position.
It's time to make a decision. Gate Crash is going to be going offline fairly soon, and there's no way to make the call any different now. Gate Crash gone. Kayak moving into A, going for the flank. It looks like he'll be good, catching one at least, knowing the push is coming in, communicating that to his teammates. It results in a trade to start with. We're waiting for Kayak to complete this full wrap around, and it's a free kill presented. He will capitalize. Looking up top for safe, a good idea. Oh, it's a messy fight, but when he wins, Durka on the other side though, facing his replacement and taking him down to keep the game going. Another overtime needed to separate these teams on split.
Oh, here we go. The longest map was, of course, yesterday, Foot versus Mate. And obviously that was an 18-16. We are going to at least 18-16. We'll see if that continues. I think we've been there most of the time. We've had the longest maps in history.
Never bind.
Yeah, thinking back to a little bit of FPX Forza. Or maybe, if you want to talk about Fnatic, a Fnatic mech.
Yes, yes.
And on Split as well. These teams have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, but after what has been an absolute journey of a map, someone eventually has to take it. It seems like that could have been it. But up for the Durka 4K. Crashy's about to be under pressure once again. He thrived in it when we kicked off OT.
Last big pickup. Kayak's been bailing them out of rounds. When things get dicey, Crashies has done the same with these A-site holds, but no 3K this time. Sivov is picked off at least, but look how quickly the response is there. Les always causing problems. In your blind side is where he lives, and a double stack up will send Boaster to the Shadow Realm. It's only Alphayer looking to bring this back. Vitality of 4 players alive, plenty of time to work with, and an op not great for a spray transfer, is it? 17-16, Vitality with map point on their opponent's pick.
The thing I've loved about this map is you're watching two teams consistently adapt to everything the opponent is doing. Think back to the openings from Kayak in that defensive round where he's expecting Durka to try and jump across, gets an opener for it. This round was, we saw a huge play out from Crashies at the back of the elbow. They send so much utility into that corner, there is no way he survives. They are so careful with it, and even, I think it was a paranoia while he's full spraying to make sure there is no chance of that happening again. That adaptation makes the site so much more open. And the learning curve for either side, again, puts Vitality in that driver's seat. Heading into the defensive side of that. We haven't seen too many attack rounds so far in OT.
Drone going up.
Minute 10 on the clock. Fnatic showing much more mid-presence than most of the rounds, looking to make their way through. But Alpha, this has been the consistent factor. He's been lurking around B main, trying to pressure, trying to take Durka off the angle. This time, he's running into less.
Think about their attack rounds. When they won attack rounds, he was the focal point.
Careful here.
Finding either an opener, picking off less, like winning that battle, as you said, or coming up with 3 or 4 kills. This time they're going to have to try and deal without him, and that will burn the clock. 40 seconds left, and they are only just clearing out positions in mid. The spike also outside B without a whole lot of help. This is a dangerous round at this stage from Fnatic.
They failed to take down Kicks as well. Still so much util online. He's forced forward though by the snake bite. A chance if they can pick him off, but instead it's Kicks finding one up above. Less consistent, and he's on the site with just his dinner to finish. Boaster and Crashies. And it's Crashies to take the kill. Keeping this doable for his side, but a plan has to be stuck surely. Barely any time left, and now no choice. Durka with the swing could end it all here, and that's exactly what he does. The final dagger in the back from their former squad mate. And it is 18-16. We went the distance here. Vitality 1-0 up going into their own map pick.
Yeah, it's Lotus to come up next. We have not witnessed that from Fnatic just yet, but historically it was a good map for them. It is, however, an excellent map from Vitality. It needs to be a recovery, but first, a break.
I want a new career.
F1 driver, Jedi, musician. Wibbs got Boo. This is my kind of office party.
I want an epic adventure.
Have you heard of the Great Circle?
What?
We got you.
I'm traveling the world?
Hold on to your hat. Who's next?
I want to play with all the League of Legends champions.
Riot benefits. Say less. We got you.
I met the ones in the game.
You're in the game now. Get all this and more with PC Game Pass. You know what I'm gonna say. Yeah, we got you.
Definition of divine. I feel like a champion. A champion. Ain't nothing that can't be done. Oh yeah. I put it all on the line. Definition of divine.
Nice, boys. Nice. That's the game. I wanna broke my monitor right now.
I hope you guys were entertained. What a way to kick off a Friday here in the Riot Games Arena. I'm your host, Yingsun. I'm back here with Kakuka and Billy. That felt like a grand final. You know, it was back and forth, and Kakuka, brilliant Valorant from both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that many times we, especially when the game goes very far, teams start losing the plot a little bit, but I feel like every single round that we had, we were just glued to our monitors being like,
Yes.
oh my god, this is so interesting. It's not like a team is throwing. I didn't feel like any of the teams lost control at any point.
I have to agree. I think that like they were still being methodical throughout and still trying to adapt continuously, which must be so tiring. You're not just kind of like throwing everything into sight. You're constantly like trying to play around each other, which is why it looked so competitive towards the end as well.
We were trying to see if we could predict where the shenanigans were going to come in. We did see some because Billy, Durka, I think, put about 4 rounds of ammo into poor Alphea's, icon on the floor there after killing him. Who can blame him?
Yeah, I mean, when you're coming up against people that you've played with, you'd hope that they can take it as like sort of tongue-in-cheek, but man, like watching it was funny to watch, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. This is how we hit off the entire map. It was Alpha getting that click and that kill onto Durka. But then we see the revenge here with Durka just having some discipline, saying, yeah, I think I'm going to get that first.
Yeah, and then,
And then just, being like, you like this spot? You like it?
Shout out to the Fnatic spray though. He's still equipped the spray for this, so I mean, you can't blame him for this. It was such an intense game as well. When Alpha stood up though, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, please sit back down. And the reason that we even got to OT was just some brilliant gameplay from both sides. But let's take a look at Vitality on their defense.
There is a lot of like head-to-heads that are of course to be looked at, and of course we're speaking about the expectations that we have for Vitality and whatnot. One of the questions that I had is I want to see Safe excelling at Tejo. I want him to be the best. And this was a very, very good example of some of the struggles that Fnatic were having on the attack. Very well played. Less playing alone on the side is something that we saw a lot, either on B or on A. Him in his position, he is able to dodge that Fade ultimate. And it is so important to work with the time. Look at the effect that this Armageddon is having. With him also getting the kill onto Boaster makes things way, way more easy for Vitality to prevent this. I feel like the utility was just on points as Kicks just gets the kill onto Crashes, and it's just off the shooting in Valorant, right? Sometimes?
Yeah, I think you have to consider as well like how long the clock ran down for Fnatic here in their attack, and they didn't really bait out any of that utility before then, which is why they have all of this Breach utility, all of this Tejo utility, and as well, you need to consider that Tejo ultimate if you are going to run the clock down like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love also the mix and match that we were seeing between being reactive and being proactive with the Tejo utility, which I think is one of the most key aspects. You need to balance out the conditioning that you put in your opponent, or if we're going to fight for certain zones of the map, we're going to put some pressure here, or also I'm just going to wait, now that I've conditioned you, to wait what you see to do against that, and that is when I stop. And I think that he was very, very good at that.
I love how it was the same story the other side. Vitality running out of time as well.
Yeah.
Fnatic doing the exact same thing back at them. And before this match started, I don't think we were wrong to assume it's going to be the Durka show, it's going to be the Kayak show, Alfie is going to be in the mix. But in the end, it really wasn't. The story of this map, if we really take a look at the numbers here, Billy, it was about the IGL on the side of Fnatic and Kicks on the side of Team Vitality. They dug them out of so many unwinnable situations.
They really did, and as much as their stats look great here, like we just always forget as well about the supportive utility that both of these players are able to provide. I mean, Bea, you said it before we even went into this, Kicks is such an amazing player on split, such a strong breach, and then Boaster as well. There were so many rounds that he was pushing out of main with Kayak and just being able to get those first engagements, which is risky for someone that's on that controller as well, right? But I think that's a great thing that Fnatic did that I didn't see from them in kickoff, was taking more risks, which was really nice.
Yeah, and thinking about when we speak about the unsung heroes, even though Boaster was having and getting a lot of kills, he was being very successful. We saw in many rounds that he was very, very willing to drop his gun to someone else, to give it to Kayak, to give it to Alpha. It's not because he knows that he is getting the kills, but it's so important to make your teammates, if they're not having good rounds, feel comfortable, feel like you trust them, that you know that they can do it, and build that trust.
The way that he took a frenzy, like you said, he gave the gun to Alpha. Alpha had like 6 kills at the time.
I was hearing Tom and speaking about Kayak being completely denied when he was on the attack, just not being able to find kills.
The confidence is going to be very important. And very quickly, you mentioned, just how clean this game was. Neither side threw a 5v3, a 5v2, or a 5v1.
Yeah,
that's got to be one
absolutely.
of the cleanest maps we've ever seen from two teams in EMEA after some of the shenanigans we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that, but let's talk about the next map. It will be Lotus. And this is where I do heavily favor Team Vitality.
Oh, you have to.
Speaking of experience?
Yeah.
No, you completely have to. I mean, you need to think about the amount of times that Vitality have played this already this year. It's been 4 times, and the only team to beat them on that map so far is G2 Esports. So, of course, you have to be worried for Fnatic.
Yeah.
Did they ever want to change their comp?
No,
Ever.
but the thing is that Crashes can fit in. I think that he's found a lot of comforts in the Fade, and I actually really like it. Maybe I want to know how much this is ready with the little reps that they've had, this year. None. Against a Vitality that has been, 1, very comfortable, and 2, very adapt to the meta.
Yeah, 100%. But do you know what? I really like this kind of arc for Crashes, playing that Fade a lot more going into this stage 1. But it's Alfie as well that I'm looking at, being back on that Sentinel. We mentioned this last week, how strong he is on that agent and how much value he can bring when he's on that.
I can't wait to see it. What a fantastic way to start this match as well. Mitch and Tom, I hope we continue to get some brilliant Valorant on map 2.
Well, give me a few more overtimes. I won't complain. Fnatic and Vitality has already delivered 18-16 on map number 1, and it goes in favor of Vitality. Now they come in on their home turf on Lotus, where they wanted to see the battle go down today. Let's see if it's going to be an easy closeout to the game, or if Fnatic can bring something fresh to the server. Tom, when it comes to compositions, they've not done that.
No, I think this is the 22nd time in a row that they've run this composition. So, yeah, definitely not the freshest of compositional ideas. And especially with the way that I think Vitality play, it's going to be interesting to see if this still works without the same pieces of the puzzle as effectively as it did. The thing is, though, Fnatic have always been happy. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, exactly. Let's see if Vitality can break Fnatic's toys as we move into a deep push from Kayak. He's being spotted. Safe. Taking his HP bar down to the last. The early fight from Fnatic wasn't intended to be B. It's going to take a bit of space and embed Alpha Year there. Sending it back towards A is a risk. Having given up this space to the push up that you'll typically see from teams. You know that you should be expecting someone on rubble, but not so ready for kicks. Still, he only finds 1 before going down.
Get quite a bit further than maybe they would have expected. No, Durka is waiting and watching. That now leaves this as quite a one-dimensional take from the side of Fnatic. It seems like there's a decent idea. Though safe. Shrouded out
30 seconds
by that
left.
Viper utility means that they might just have an opportunity to try and put the pressure onto Sivov.
He is all alone, and with that door open, his back is now compromised. Wants to fight forward, and good for the first. That's all he's getting this time. Crashies knows there's a fight brewing with Safe, but has to go back to cover the plant. 10 seconds left. And it's time to get that spike on the floor. Durka dropping down's being heard, but there was no chance to stop the defuse, or the plant, I should say. The defuse now certainly coming through. Spoilers ahead. Big flank from Les, and it's good to see he's still got that gameplay up his sleeve, even here on Lotus.
Yeah, it seems to make very little difference what map or even what agent you put Les on. He's always going to be behind you. You've always got to watch out. I also want to just bring in a stat that I think was truly ridiculous. So I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want you to look this up.
Okay.
Versus GX.
Oh, God.
There were 15 opening duels. How many do you think that Vitality won?
Ooh. GX can be a little aggro at times. I'm going to go in for 10.
14.
That's a few more.
Yeah. So
out of 15.
Yes.
Ooh,
it was a 13-2. So they won
Toxins going up.
almost every single opening duel. So obviously a hugely dominant performance from them, but I have to wait and see if they can do a similar sort of display versus Fnatic, and more so if it will matter. This has been an incredible match for them. The only defeat they've had was when they faced up against G2. One of the best teams in the world, And every other team they face, they've got a minimum of 8 rounds on the attack. And in most cases in EMEA, they've got at least 10. Well, they have got 10.
I was twinged a bit when you say G2 the best team in the world, or one of the best, just thinking on the last time that was true before that roster, and it was when Valorant was played in a very different way.
Yeah.
Glad we're past those times now.
Yeah, and then they got 13-0 by Gambit. So, you know, things change.
Clashing of styles.
Solid position. Obviously, only has a pistol. Same can be said for the entirety of opponents. Oh dear, Chronicle. You've been left behind. You've been left out to dry unless... Oh, already good for one. Now the rifles come into play. See, the goal here is to keep things as clean as possible. A plant would be nice for Boaster, but not quite. A millisecond away. Chronicle, who was left behind. Oh, you know what? He's going to get away with one. Always seems to. And that is a Bulldog in hand. There's a part of me that wonders if he goes for damage or if he just chucks out the map.
Yeah, 15 seconds left. He could even run and carry it through, but he'll have the credits in the next. Doing a dent to Vitality here could be worth it, but the players he'll fight might not all have weapons, and one shot landed should get that Bulldog back into play. Durka even dropped the Outlaw, so one of his closer teammates could pick it up. Nicely done by Vitality, not too much lost, a 2-0 start. And like we said, you know, Fnatic 5-0 up on the last map, climbed back after Vitality took the lead, brought us to an overtime. Had many opportunities to close it out. Now, looking at the games yesterday, Tom, we've seen that crumble teams mentally, but I would be astonished if that was the case for Fnatic. Let's see if they can take this third round, though. Whether they're crumbling mentally or not, this will certainly lift your spirits.
I think no matter what, I won't, even if they get stomped here, I won't argue it's down to mental. I think this team has done way too much. I might argue that it's down to Vitality being insane. And while Durka peeking into a position that is being held not only by Chronicle but also by Alfia, and he still manages to quickly deal a death blow. This is going to again cause havoc. It removes that Viper wall that we love to see utilized to take space. Instead, they're just going to do things that a little bit more quickly. Les has now been maneuvered away from the C side because of that aggressive fight that they took. He now supports on A.
Bomb buddy out.
Paranoia is going to keep them back a little longer. With that deep information we're talking about for Durka, yeah, they know, they're ready for this blitz to come through on the A side. Salvos to slow as soon as the door opens. Whoa, that was almost a big mistake.
Down A.
Pressure on, and Safe knows it. Body's coming around the corner, he's down below in the well. Creeps around the backside as well, barely avoiding Alfier's gaze. And the 2 versus 4, thanks to that shot, maybe even having a plant in it. Him planting, you're never going to expect Boaster to still be in rubble till they hear his steps. They just heard him running. Durka was well within range, and you can see,
maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah, must have missed it.
Alfia's aggressive position. This could even things up if he wins the fight. It's not clean, but he does get the kill. That's all that matters. Puts things back into a 2v2, and they've expected Boaster to run away, to go back to try and join his teammate. The thing is that tap, it forces Alpha's hand, but he still manages to survive. In fact, he takes over. What a play from Alfia. A round that looked dead and buried, but put this man back on a killjoy, and he'll deliver.
It's good to see him smiling down there early on. Had a bit of a shaky start to split and a few whiffy moments as well.
Finished.
But this was looking very clean. Again, I feel like those 2 or 3 steps were heard, but it can be hard in the moment to put those pieces together. Alfia, a bit whiffy up top as well, but onto Durka and finishing off kicks with ease. The Beast is back. Well, let's see if that holds true. A 4-piece for Alpha and a round for Fnatic, but a full buy coming through from their opponents now. They had a lot of weapons to fight with in the last, but this one will look that little bit better.
Definitely an opportunity loss for Vitality. How that round started off, I think Boaster being able to get him from behind, but also just not being able to isolate Alfia. Like, he was basically at one point in like a 1v maybe 3 on the site. There's also mention that those 1vx, 2vx haven't really been happening too often. Well, that was one of them.
Time to jump.
Base being taken. Durka, the first point of contact, doesn't want to overface, and actually, Kayak has found 2 with utility and a shot.
Yeah, Les going down to the nade as well has opened the site completely for Fnatic. plant and a man advantage to work with. Alpha and Crashies could even come out of this round with ult online, but wouldn't really need it considering Vitality are low in terms of credits. That may come into play if they even decide to go for this 3 versus 4. They lose one player and it's time to fall back. They see an onslaught of utility and it may just be the same. Salvo's in a pop flash inside the smoke. Kix has got the cover he needs to follow through on that kill without disruption. But when they step a little wider, Kayak and Alpha ready to clean up, all on Seabuff, and no idea that Crashies has wrapped around. What an adjustment!
I don't know if he has
the
time.
Newcomer down to the last few seconds, but not quite enough. That was a clean engagement, but a fight that still goes to Fnatic.
Yeah, you have to give credit to Crashies for the timing. Knowing just about when he needed to peak, but that is really unlucky for Seabuff. Again, that looked like a round that was done and dusted with the initial take and the hold, but he somehow made that one incredibly competitive, and even just the quick reactions at the
they
end.
got all these freebie rounds last game, so now it's time for us to get some.
Oh, clearly both are feeling they should have won the last one. Already. Alfia immediately dealing with Durka, and this was an aggressive push that we've seen a few times. Warns the mound. However, the response being a rubble take, and while patiently playing as a squad to make sure that, okay, they're not going to be able to steal the gun away. They're not going to be able to get too much out of this one.
Stun salvo combo almost works out, but you hit it onto the player who can just blast back away. A little unlucky. You can see if they went for it just a second or two ago, they would have had 4 players caught, and Kayak would have made it out, but the rest be in the dirt. Instead, they've rotated. As expected in a round like this, when you have those pistols, you're very rarely going to stick into it full default with 40 seconds left. The best play, and really the only chance most of the time, is to group up and approach the round as a unit. Now, it's not worked out to disrupt the plant. The C site taken for free, and Fnatic able to set up into post plants. We talked earlier about Alfia and Crashies potentially having ult for this, and indeed they do it. But again, seeing them, if they commit even one of those ults, Vitality can be pretty happy about that. And they won't deal the damage to the weapons, but at least the ult economy will go down. Realistically, their goal here is not even to bait out ultimates. It's not to win the round. It's simply to sit outside of B main and wait for Fnatic to come knocking. Then they can make it really costly.
Already cleared way too much space outside of B. I think Fnatic realizing that something's afoot. Just opt to run back in the other direction. Maybe an assist or two for Timmy the Turret, but no, it's just going to be the spike. Obviously denying all of those additional orbs to their opponents, but Fnatic will take the lead. Now, something I want to just premise again, when you look at this map, Vitality have had some frankly ridiculous attack sides. Again, you're talking about 8 rounds playing T1 at Masters, 10 rounds versus GX, 10 rounds versus Team Liquid. They are incredible at the attack side of this map. And you look back historically, that was also where Fnatic thrived. They were very, very good at the attack side with this composition, their late rotations and how they control the map. So I think obviously important for Fnatic to put up a good stint, but even 4 or 5 rounds at times can be enough on the defense.
Well, we have 6 ultimates online coming into this round. 3 for Vitality, 3 for Fnatic. But Fnatic side has the higher impact ones a lot of the time. Crashies and Alpha to clear space, and Kayak to claim some heads, or do just the same as the others. And this is why they can be much slower in their approach to this early round. They don't need to have a lot of space to springboard off of, especially when you're pushed up like that in B main. So often you're going to see just the Killjoy ultimate put into play there. Maybe. Kayak's gonna, he is dancing around those shots, waiting for them to run out of ammo, and as they retreat and reload, he pushes on. That'll get them a plant, and again, we talk about the crowd control, just running the clock down. He won't get a kill with the showstopper, but he's got them a plant.
The worry is that they now need to do something else, because I think the plan was maybe to try and delay with the lockdown. That got removed with the spam, trying to push onto Siva, and they've done well. The bait into that wrap back around, thing is, though, they didn't actually end up planting. They're now going back over to the A site with the spike, almost trying to sell this ruse. And with the Rolling Thunder on the other side, Safe with Durka combining, it looks like Fnatic might have overcooked this one a little bit. The spike now has to go back once again, and sure, on a site hold, in a 1 versus 3, it was basically going back to the last map. Crashy's managed to thrive. This would have to be the best of them, already giving away his position. Sure, he'll take down Durka, but there was nothing more to be had.
Yeah, the fact that Dirk is able to push up behind on C there for free, it essentially trades back. Chronicle was able to catch Sivov off guard by making that late play towards A main, and then Durka did exactly the same to him. The site hold as well, the Rolling Thunder committed by Kicks got them so much. And again, sort of from the start, once Alfier gets picked off through the wall, that's what opens the door for Durka to make this play. That's when Durka says, okay, I've been holding this, no one's here, I'll push up because
I got dropped.
they're not going to catch me. They're not going to hit me with a turret. I'll be able to sneak up, get a shot off, and gate crash out. And it wasn't even needed. 3-3. Vitality biting right back, and well, Fnatic had the lead for a moment, but a fleeting one.
2 ultimates utilized as well. However, lockdown and maybe a Chronicle Viper's Pit might finally be seen. It is a mystery to us. Can just fight for that orb. A lot of the time the defense are not going to play this far forward. In fact, it's interesting, the C site is where we've basically seen Durka almost every single round. Like, they are happy to just take the control, have him posted up in case anybody wants to try and fight that direction. But it then just allows them to bolster the other side of the map. You're seeing 3 play outside A. Information already found onto Kayak as well, and they're going to make a play off this.
God, they've walked straight through the door. Sivov, they knew he was there, but a little bit too late. Did the pieces connect? And Durka's push up. You lose that fight on A main, you got to go somewhere else. You got to take space. For a moment, it looked like they would go walking right into that operator, but instead, the B site is their new target. Alpha, 56 HP. But an ult online if they want to use it. Keep an eye on the gate crash for Durka as well. That's going to fade out. In fact, just now it disappears. He's now stranded.
30 seconds.
Starts to back off.
Especially with them around that door to see. He's got to be careful. The timing for Safe couldn't be worse. 20 seconds. Less is the last man standing. Paranoia will force him out, and he's going to take some damage as he backs away. This will be a post plant. Really something that Vitality can deny.
They'll have to fight their way back through with Durka on the off. It's not the easiest to make work on these kind of angles, and the lockdown put into play. Now we save. There's no other choice. You can't get onto that lockdown. The operator still, even if it wasn't there, a 2v4 from this position, they had to be able to at least trade out the kill, but that'll stop the play completely. Fnatic had the lead moments ago, and they will reclaim it, but they're at each other's throats in the early rounds. It's back and forth, and for Vitality, that's keeping them in with a real shot to close this 2-0. Again, what these teams have played, I know not same rosters for the most part. Certainly, Durka would have been on the other side. But historically, Vitality and Fnatic as an organizational battle always goes Fnatic's way. In all the iterations of Vitality, they've taken 2 maps off of Fnatic. So coming in today with a 1-0 and a real chance to not just beat them,
it's a shit
but 2-0, brutalize them. That's going to put Vitality in a good mental state, especially with this being their map pick. And like you said, second half, they move to the attack. All they got to do here is keep it close.
Yeah, that's the goal. But I will say, like, again, you win the pistol second round, and then 4 of the 5 have gone the way of Fnatic. They're definitely looking like they're building into this half with a clear game plan. Like, they go back for the same B take, knowing that, okay, if we get into the post plant, that lockdown is just so oppressive. Like, you're looking to try and get back into the site, but you have to give up every single piece of control. So you hit that timing maybe 10 seconds after you plant. Firstly, the clock runs down, but also it's almost impossible because you then have to re-clear everything you've just had and had to give up because of that lockdown. What I will say is now the ults have flipped. Crashes has been able to farm up a few more orbs to try and get back that Nightfall that was utilized in round number 6. But other than that, Dimensional Drift, and more importantly that Armageddon, we have seen so many ludicrous plays, combining the Armageddon with the salvos, be it to clear a site that's been taken, or just to deny a plant in general.
Vitality, like you said, ult's coming online for them, moving into this 3-4. But the damage they've been doing in some of these rounds hasn't been enough to keep Fnatic in a risky spot, right? They don't just have one buy round to win and then they're into winning ways, get that little bit of a lead. Fnatic built up quite a bit of credits. Dispensing those ults in the last round certainly helped out. See if the difference can be made here on the server. And again, when we look at how things went in that previous map, Tom, it was a very slow start for Durka. It was a quick start for Kayak, and it seemed like a real diff between the two. Durka woke up towards the end, heated up into that map, and by the looks of it, into the series as well. A much better face to him, and also, you can understand it, when so much of his value on Split was the operator in those aggressive spots early on. Well, this map, that's a playstyle that just thrives here on Lotus. So I expect, yeah, he's 6-4 right now, but with the op coming online only more recently, I think it's going to get a whole lot better for Durka and a whole lot more difficult for Fnatic to fight for that early space.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, because I feel like this is a map where I even think back to, I think it was Safe getting his team qualified to an event, I think it was Champs, by getting an ace to close out. Individually, he's always been fantastic on this map. The problem, though, is I think when you face off against Fnatic on Lotus, and you're that IGO, you're that leader, the guy who has to make a lot of the calls, you need to be so focused in. There's a squad that I think Boaster does an excellent job of taking back map control midway through a round and then quick switching to another side. I think B is the prime example. You get that door control. Maybe in some cases you even get B, but you can still quickly maneuver through the doors, or even going just back through that broken door towards the A site. And if you're caught off, we even saw it a couple of rounds ago where he was looking just, okay, I haven't seen anything on B in ages, I'll walk away, and the second he stepped, he's immediately finished off. So I want to see if his individual level might suffer a little bit just because of what's going to be going on the Fnatic side with those calls, with that rotation. And I think they've been caught a couple of times. I think it was Boaster once with that deep play back towards Rubble, and then Chronicle again doing the same thing. It feels like in those moments Fnatic are perfectly communicating and holding that ground, and sometimes Vitality get a little bit lost.
You can see that while taking a moment to get on the straight and narrow with Faded. Team Vitality, they had a tech pause. You can't talk during those. So they take themselves a tactical timeout right out of the tech. Getting on the same page, and you can see Faded firing away with what he's been watching from the sidelines. It's 4 out of 5 rounds have gone to Fnatic. It's 4-3 on the board, with Vitality in with a real chance thanks to ultis coming online, thanks to Operator in play. But considering they were 2-0 up, yeah, recency bias goes to Fnatic. Seems like the momentum, the wind in their sails. Here's where Vitality have to put them to an early stop.
It's like the peripheral issue has been sorted. Hopefully that wasn't somebody spilling a drink. I did see Alf there, and you know, I'd say there's a 50-50 chance.
Any game, any day.
Maybe he stood up a little bit too quickly, took half the desk with him.
I've seen those cups, you can hit them and they don't fall over, and it's a miracle Fnatic haven't bought him one yet.
Maybe buy him a few.
Yeah, maybe a few, just in case.
I think most players have like 17 drinks on their desk at once, so.
I've seen people come in with 4 keyboards before, so.
It's a risky game, and actually, it's a risky game that won Kayak the prize of the majority of his HP being gone. That's the reason they've had to avoid this C site, but it's also a reason that they've been able to challenge quite a lot towards B. I think Safe's definitely heard a step or two, getting that stun ready. But just because there's commitment here early doesn't mean they're going to completely commit. Bear in mind, this is a couple of rounds in a row they've head towards this B site. It could all be a ruse.
Paranoia put through. Boaster blinded, but he's up close. Has his senses back just in time to hear Sevov backing off. And they know that up top Rubble is clear, but what isn't clear is their back. The push up is huge from Durka, cutting off that rotation that they need from the B site. I think he's hearing the turret, knowing that he doesn't want to be baiting it. No, it's actually looking the wrong way. He even steps out into heavy traffic, knowing he wants to flank up on A. Ingles the Tay-hold, Armageddon slowing them down on the A site, drawing them into battles. They step forward on B, they step forward on A, and no ground really taken until now. The two-piece pickup, and they've avoided Durka's ire by a matter of seconds with a Viper's pit down from Chronicle, by the way, at long last. That makes it difficult for Durka, has to give up the operator.
And they know he's there now as well. The alarm bot went offline perfectly, time for him to get their dimensional drift used to try and clear out positions, wanting to try and get rid of Crashies, but Crashies still wins that fight. And now for Durka, he's got to try and find not only the Viper, but some space to play with. Went back, has at least a little bit of extra HP, but that is ticking away. Needs Chronicle to fall, and he finds the headshot, but has to be wary of the player behind. That is Crashies waiting just on the edge. Fnatic, it came close, losing some fights, but again, it's that quick movement, that quick switch back to the A site that works perfectly for them, catching a couple of players around that door position. And they now extend that lead a little further.
Phenomenal play by Crashies as well. This is a round that looked done. It looked to be in the gutter, and a big three-piece from him.
You might
The
be
first two
young gun,
getting
but
them.
I've got the cleanest guns in the West. I need a permit for mine.
Never heard anyone chat more waffle at the end of rounds. Well, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Good spirits. I'll tell you that. Keeps the
It must
smiles
be
on
hard
the
to be
faces.
in a bad mood when someone just says stuff like that at the end of every
Oh, yeah.
round.
No, he's a tough guy to be in a bad mood around. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'd say that for most of Fnatic, it is just like,
Yeah.
you look at it as a vibes team. We've seen that. I've seen Crashies popping the dances, but outside of that, they've cut the skill. They're some of the best pieces to any puzzle that you could possibly wish for. Vitality, well, they're not able to put all the pieces together here. It's down to Sheriffs. A lot of weaknesses here on the defense, and on the attack, maybe you got a chance. Group up and just look to snowball into them. But on the defense, that's a little bit more difficult to do, especially on a map with 3 sites. At least on Split, you go A or you go B. But here, there's a tertiary option.
Yeah, and also just the way that Fnatic plays. As I said, they're constantly changing up late into the round. So even if you gambled and then you heard them go another way, you might have gambled correct at the beginning, and then you second guess yourself, you get picked apart, and well, they are currently being picked apart. Seaboth, well, that's not gone to plan. Sheriff can be unkind. Unfortunately, that is now the spike crossing to the site. Eventually, will get the job done. At least finding one, you can see a slightly safer position being chosen, just to make sure there isn't really a chance, although another pick coming up. This position, though, should be nasty. I don't know how they're making this round competitive. That's a little whiffy, but the job gets done in the end. A 2 versus 2, make that just 1, and Boaster from the flank, I think, has done enough. Sibo to try and fight versus the remaining 2, and well, eventually a mini heart attack, but Fnatic get it over the line.
I was getting ready to be a little critical, because in a round like this where you're looking at pistols for your opponents, and I think the read should have been there, not just from press and tab, but also from what they'd already seen. That man didn't have a weapon, nor did the second pickup that they found from Boaster in mid, or in B, I should say. And the thing is, he goes up into heaven. This leaves the rest of Fnatic 3 players on the site, but they don't have control over their back. They don't have control over door. They have heaven, but they don't have the spawn side towards Waterfall.
The worst high five of all time, Ben.
Yeah, I was about to say, you need to work on the synergy, lads.
But honestly, that came down to Boaster. If he doesn't have success on the flank, then the round was thrown away by the lack of control. But instead,
a jump spot.
It works out wonderfully.
Like, look at where he actually died. It doesn't even look like he's out far enough to even take any damage. That's a big start, a switch up, trying to maneuver Durka into new positions, putting less over on C instead. And with him gone, you can already see that has been completely claimed by Kayak. Also, if the orb is still there, that could be a little bit too much.
They thought that he was in heaven, though. I think he had the right play there. Like, you're trapped, you're surrounded, you've got to spring on something. And especially with them thinking he's on the other angle, that's where the danger lies, that it would be a split through to B. It makes sense. Deep aggression from Kayak, knowing that Boaster had drawn forces in the other direction. And indeed, Showstopper online now, but that should be used as a safety net, especially now. 4v2, no need to throw it in. Even the nade there, delaying them further. And I think Vitality, whether they are a big fan of a waterfall retake or not, I don't really care. I think they're just falling back to save these weapons. And for Fnatic, that's exactly what they hoped for. 7 rounds, now guaranteed to be on the board. And with 4 alive and op saved over as well, they're set to close out this half in a very strong position.
That's the thing, though. The early fight from Alfia, having that operator, that was basically set up as a denial for Durka. He's been peeking out most rounds, as said. He's been controlling that. So that was Alfia, well, being the alpha and just taking that clear fight. Kayak's made a bit of a slip up and gone down to the spike, but I don't think it's going to do too much damage to the economy. But instead, I think it was actually just a jump spot from Les that I believe barely even showed anything. I'm hoping we'll have the replay of it. It must have been, yeah, literally just nothing. And that's enough Alfia to take the opener. And by that point, you've kind of lost so much control. Like, they had a free walk into C. And yeah, that's...
I thought I'm safe here.
Yeah, they did. They had a free walk into C, but again, this is Boaster going for the TP deep into spawn, surviving on 10 HP, and making the call. Many players wouldn't, but many players should. Of Durka just shot me. He almost took me down. I survived a brush with death. I'm out of here. Runs in the other direction and forces them to hunt him down. That's what buys the C site for Fnatic almost for free.
Careful.
This has been a rough half so far for Vitality. We've sung the praises of their attack half, but really do need something to play with, and Fnatic have been adapting throughout, be it with varying takes, be it with denial of C-site in the last. Now what looks like a much more direct hit in towards this A-site.
Oh, slowed completely, but he's got plenty of time still on that showstopper. Up close, and it's a big hit. Less down, nade, chasing, kicks, and he's in trouble with the C's. Just about staying alive, but look at the reinforcements. They're all coming in. Durka from the back might be able to find value. In fact, he'll be pushed all the way back by Alphayer. While the take is coming into the B site, the space that was given up by Vitality, trying to reinforce the back of A, ends up biting them in the back as Fnatic tap the spike on B and now avoid this walk-up. This could have been disastrous if we saw Durka able to capitalize. Instead, they make it to the C site, minus Alphayer. Also the latest lurk of all time.
It seemed like they had an idea over on the Vitality side that they might opt to switch back, and yeah, you mentioned it. This is a late rotation coming through, maybe a little bit too late. Boaster needs to hold the line for Chrono to get back in time. As he watches, now knowing his teammates up close, but needing to try and deny. If there was someone spamming it, coming through on the other side, Chronicle's actually managed to find one more, but Kix is still waiting patiently. Chronicle trying to face off versus two, needs a little bit more. Shots connected, but Kix is just sticking the defuse, even let's go. It takes a lot for Vitality to finally get back onto the board, but with 4, they close that gap at least a little.
Well, maybe even enough. 8-4, a much easier half to recover on, and well, we're not done yet. It could be a 7-5 half in their favor, a streak from Fnatic. 7 out of 8 rounds, but finally put to bed here. And in a round where they use that showstopper for the pick onto Les, it's remarkable. What a job by Seavelf up top, by Safe containing that deeper aggression. I think the over-rotation of the A site almost cost them, but the fact that they filled in the gaps so quickly stopped Fnatic from being able to take advantage of the space that was given for free. So really well handled under pressure. 3 players stacked up on C, and early on, Kayak wanted to go there for the pick. It's probably a good job he did.
Just to get rid of that turret. We've seen it a couple of times, and it's just to put further doubt in the minds of Fnatic.
Drone is down.
Sending through the drone. That's going to be the Rolling Thunder, a very aggressive take, but Chronicle still manages to land a couple of shots from afar. I don't mind the idea, but not being able to fight from the player so deep. They look to run back away. They've left Les alone. Bear in mind, he does have the Viper's Pit and only a Spectre, so at some point, if he is going to utilize it, it needs to be soon, but this was all a ruse. Again, the push and pull that Fnatic put through on this map, they baited out the Viper's Pit, and they're not even going that way.
I don't know. Oh, look at the position of Kix. Oh, the flash is too deep.
He didn't know.
Chronicle's on for the 3rd, and this is a beautiful read from Fnatic. Not that play, but the start of the round. They knew Vitality had pushed up when the alarm bot was broken as an addition. The reaction, I don't know if we'll hear it on the comms, but Alpha clearly called for it. They wrapped back, they were ready for that push-up. The response from Chronicle covering his teammates as the Rolling Thunder came in, keeping them alive and keeping the chances for this round alive single-handedly. 4 kills. He's down on 2 HP. and he'll not get a chance to bring the Viper's Pit online. It's the last round of the half. Les is walkabouts. He is running out of time quickly. And I think at this point, you might almost just save the weapon for the stats.
Yeah, what can you even do at this stage? You're
done.
On 1 versus 4. Spike is ticking, you're on the other side of the map. You got completely baited by Fnatic, like playing early, like denying that aggression and then just sprinting over towards that side of the map. He'll get himself one extra kill just to improve his stats for the VLR scoreboard readers, but ultimately a stellar half coming through from Fnatic.
And more importantly, he got his cast up, and that's what it's all about. A nice 8-4 cushion for Fnatic. Let's see if it's enough for them to bring us to map 3 after the break. Welcome back, folks. 8 rounds for Fnatic, a 4-round lead, and they're looking to bring us to map 3. But first, they have to best Vitality on their own pick. And now, Vitality move to the attack side. They scrounge together a couple rounds, quite literally 2 rounds, after the pistol and the follow-up anti-eco. So it's been a slow start for Vitality, but there's been moments, there's been sparks, and again, Sivov, one of the best debuts that we've seen. And he's continuing on his work for Vitality, pulling the sled from the front. Here. 4 rounds in it. This pistol could close the gap, or it could make this a real uphill battle. Durka not liking the latter.
An 8-4 half in the last map was not enough for Fnatic to take it over the line, and we've mentioned throughout, the Vitality looks so comfortable when it comes to the attack side of Lotus, so much so that a lot of the time we don't get to see much of their defense. Kayak realizing he needs to try and pad the gap after Chronicle is lost immediately. Does a little bit of chip damage, but has to fall off. It seems like they're going to head towards the C site now. There are positions that I think players have earned a title for, and whenever I think of this C site, I think of Althea. Without the majority of his utility, an alarm bot and his turret currently watching towards the B site. If they do go this way, it's just down to that man and his pistol.
Well, you might be calling for the orb to go up, but that's not possible with Chronicle down in the dirt. Alphier gonna follow suit, as is Boaster. A convincing set of opening duels for Vitality. And it looks like that scoreline is about to get a whole lot closer. Considering half of their rounds come off the back of winning the pistol in the first half, it is certainly a breath of fresh air to see them keep themselves in it after such a close map number 1. We know they've got it in the tank. 5-8. The gap closes, and Fnatic should be on an eco.
Yeah, not expecting a defensive side force. I'd be very surprised to see anything of the sort, but it would have been nice for Fnatic, in fact, on both maps to get the pistol in that second half. Just be able to give themselves a little bit of a boost. Because, as I said, once Vitality get rolling on the attack side, it can be very difficult. I will say, I think Fnatic will have known this map is coming in the veto, though. If there was any side of any map that I would have looked to counter, looked to break apart, this would be the one. Look for tells, look for ideas of what your opponents have been doing and try to break them up. Now, obviously, Fnatic are going to be confident. It's the Lotus. It has always been a great map for them. But right now, even though the scoreline is firmly in their favor, it is definitely not over.
Here.
Yeah, right. About those adjustments, about reading into Fnatic's play. What was it you said earlier, Tom? 2023, they've been running this comp since?
Yeah. Well, this is the 22nd time in a row.
If you
they've
don't have
not
enough data
shied
there,
from it even once.
Yeah. If you don't have enough data there to see how what their ideas are, what their objectives are, at least in terms of comp coming into this, you probably shouldn't be here. I think Vitality so far, they've had their reads at times, but Fnatic coming ahead in a lot of those battles. This one should not be one of them. Classics across the board, numbers towards C and B. Vitality have left the door open for a rotate back. I thought they were going to go for that. Instead, it's going to be Les crossing over, who runs into two. Okay, runs through two of them, never mind.
Yeah, now it's just a free push back towards the other side of the map. I think they even had salvos to deny any cheeky peeks that could have come in from the corner. Those 2 kills completely changed the stature of this round, and while Vitality are still pulling in that sort of FPX style of purchase. You've got 2 pistols that you can afford to lose, and then 3 rifles. If they keep all 5 players up, or even if they keep 3 up, they're going to be coming in with an incredibly strong-looking bonus.
So far, it's not looking like there'll be any dents delivered, although they're going pushing into the buggy. Well, that's going to quickly put to bed the flawless, in-zone flawless as it would have been. But from here on out, what can you do?
Give them a shout anyway.
You know,
do you feel like they deserved it?
I do. I think they've well and truly earned it with their support.
Well, 8-6. Both pistols, both follow-ups, now under the belt of Vitality. But this is the round where things truly get interesting. You might be thinking, well, Tom, this is normally a bonus. This is one you'd heavily favor to the side of Fnatic, but with those weapons being held over to the next round, 2 players not investing, able to buy back up into this one. And at least, from what I can currently see on the board, it looks like Durka might immediately invest into the operator. Mitch, I'm sure you're slightly more excited about a different gun.
I am indeed. The big boy out on Boaster. One of my favorite players to see utilize this weapon, although it has fallen by the wayside in recent memory. He's always consistent at spamming this door. Man after my own heart. Timing's good for him. Has to set up a smoke. And for Durka especially, being here, knowing who you're up against, that's a brave play. You know how this guy likes to play. The trigger finger, the only difference between an opening pick for Boaster, Vitality being able to approach this late round with their operator still intact. For now, looks like they will keep it. Oh, I could have spoken too soon. It's on his head.
Don't say it too loud. Maybe Boaster will hear you.
Over that white noise, I would be impressed if he can hear anything.
Look at the aggression, though. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Kayak in a solid position, Spike on the deck, retrieving that is not going to be easy, and you can already see the rest of the team are having to try and hightail it back in the other direction. This aggression wasn't spotted out, and Vitality were basically looking for it for the majority of the round. Waiting for some support.
30 seconds left.
Durka's operator will be that first point of contact, looking for the head, but doesn't get anything, and Alfia immediately swings. Les has taken space on B and does manage to win the fight, but they need to get that spike first. Immediately teleporting away, but teleporting straight into the hands of Boaster with the Odin. The spike down, but it was irrelevant, as Chronicle managed to remove his doppelganger. And Fnatic break back immediately. Now the problem with that bonus, Mitch, is although it was a bonus, they did buy an operator. So not only is that going to go into their opponent's hands, but also that takes the economy low enough that there is now a piece missing.
Exactly, we're bolstering the Fnatic buy, and at the cost of your own economy. Certainly not an ideal scenario for Vitality to be fighting up against. 3 rounds in it, and a weak weapon sent into the hands of Safe. He'll be playing his salvos most of the round, and I think they'll give him a more passive role. Off rip, the spams are coming through, and they've done damage. Les is down to 58. He might be relegated to the Stinger.
I reckon he didn't spam it in the last round just for the surprise factor.
Could be, yeah. Do it in the more important
Maybe they
round.
won't expect. Well, no, it's not even that. It's they wouldn't expect me to buy it, but now they know I have it. I'll just spam.
Could well be. The back off. Paranoia used to buy a little bit of space, but that stun is perfect. Boaster has to send it to the backside. Salvos are chasing him down. keeping him honest. Only one corner he can really fight from, and Crashies ends up going down, but Chronicle from the side, picking up a few. Stinger unsafe, alongside his salvos, have brought this back to even territory. Fnatic still have Chronicle, though. He's tearing through the back lines as they push into the site. It's only the first players through that end up breathing late. Safe and Kicks, and they're up against it with the operator of Kayak and the utility clearing down below. Safe needs that pick up top.
That's the thing, his position revealed. This fight might be everything and has to turn tail. And unfortunately for him, that's the moment Kayak strikes. Alpha combining, that's another on the board. And after winning the bonus, or winning, sorry, against the bonus, and now winning with the rebuy, Fnatic have put themselves in a fantastic spot. A map that historically has always been theirs, but in recent times, Vitality took their crown, at least in EMEA. They now sit 3 rounds from taking us to a map 3, taking us to Haven. Which, if we're being honest, you look at the comp that Vitality was running for a long time on that map, it was taken from Fnatic themselves. Teacher versus Padawan. The question of who that master may be.
Lots of damage, and Chronicle the one to pick up the kill. The spams here from Fnatic, such an annoyance for the early rubble control. It's denied. Vitality move to the B site. Sivov already in, and he's picked off one with Kicks following through. That's the site claimed. It's upgrades found in a plant. Not yet being sought. After they're going into Kayak, this could be a big problem. Where do you go now? The showstopper's on your tail. And that's the spike down in spawn. Last man standing. He's gonna go pushing right into the waiting arms of the Ark. He survives, but now he's sent forward by the nade. A second bite of the cherry for Kayak, and he devours the remaining players for Vitality.
Even when things look to get a little bit scary in the mid-round, it seemed like Kayak had a very good read on the scenario, posting up, just waiting for them to try and rotate back towards that C site. It has felt like throughout, Fnatic have been slightly ahead in a lot of those calls.
That's so annoying to play against, man.
I'll say as well, Chronicle is having one hell of a map. Like, that's always the toughest thing, I think, when facing up. Yeah, moving swiftly on. The toughest thing when facing off against this Fnatic is that I feel like when Chronicle is online, it's almost impossible to win. Like, you have to be on your A game every single time, and are currently 16 and 12. Vitality have taken a pause. Maybe a last-ditch effort. As said, in EMEA, their attack sides have been formidable, but they are yet to get themselves a buy round. And in fact, that's been the story of this game. 2 individual rounds is all they've managed to garner throughout, excluding those pistols and seconds. I think the guys on Fnatic have got to be feeling incredibly confident moving forward into Haven. It really would feel like anyone's game. I thought, like, with Split going Vitality's way, this match was firmly in their hands. Theirs to lose. The Fnatic has proven that they were well worthy of the test.
We're going to get a little bit of a blitz down from Fnatic again. That early rubble control we so often see, at least being feigned out. Yeah, Poster still with the big old gun. Clearly feeling like the spams have been working. Maybe he took a look at the tab.
He's a bit further forward with the spams now, though. Before it was through a wall, now he's just right up close.
He's realized the only thing that saved them last time was that wall. Let's take their map shields away. Fair enough. Big ult from Durka. Lots of info found.
They found Chronicle.
They didn't. I don't think they saw Chronicle, no. No, they didn't.
They definitely didn't. Sivov has teleported into the site. He was frustrated about not receiving info. Now he's not giving it out. He was too busy looking to try and hunt down Alpha. And it is a blitz on the site, and in-zone flawless. After the pause, that's moments after, Faded has taken time to explain how those ults could be used, where we can put those into play. And they get nothing.
Oh, it was Kicks signaling the end of the round, screaming out, off your feet. Their legs are swept out from under them through a snake bite is an ambitious play. And with 2 players ready to spam you down, there was no way they were getting away with that one. Chronicle feeling his impact now, 18 and 12, and the snake bite assisting. The other kills, what is that? Kayak's taking him down, the spams have gone out of control! Durka tries to match them pound for pound, but he comes up short.
You dare try and use his own spell against him. That one's never gonna work. An easy amount of damage, but taken by either side. An early advantage here for Fnatic. A fantastic haunt coming out from Crashies. You look at the ultimates, those are in their favor. Kayak, deep control on it. Where do you even go at this stage? You now have Boaster bolstering B. And even this nasty little trap play. You got the Viper's Pit. You go, okay, well, they blocked off C. And this is what happened in the last round. They targeted Alpha here. You know that this guy is going to be lurking in that spot. And now he's moved up. Buddy, you have got someone literally touching your back right now. Being caught out by the audacity of this Fnatic squad. The TP's not going to work. The Viper's Pit integrity is still there. And you can even see the reposition on B. Crashies has taken back control, expecting them to come through, expecting them to clear his angle. He's perfect. What is that from Chronicle? Just a spam through his own pit. Seamoth, good luck, my friend. It's another in-zone flawless. Fnatic as clean as ever to close out this map.
Whose map pick was this again? They looked so clean here, and you talk about looking at the data. Well, it just got a whole lot better for Fnatic, 1-1. We're going the distance in this series after so many OTs. We were due a quick map, 13-6. We'll see you after the break.
Baba, what are we playing?
Ya lo sabéis, it's Halo Day.
Yeah, one sec.
He's playing football, isn't he?
Chachajo, you know he fancies himself a footballer. Oh, whatever. Look, your love makes me strong, but your hate makes me invincible. All right, let's get on Halo then. Let's go.
Ready.
Dale.
You went back this time, right?
Chill, chaval. I won't ghost you this time.
I'm going hallway.
I got right.
Uno fuera.
Oh, another one down. Lock in. Next kill wins it.
Where is he? No lo veo.
Nisha, you hear that?
Quick on him, top left.
Bet. I'll push it. He's one shot.
Game over.
Got him.
Well played.
Same time tomorrow then.
We'll see.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Nos vemos.
I want a new career.
F1 driver, Jedi, musician. Wibbs got Boo. This is my kind of office party.
I want an epic adventure.
Have you heard of the Great Circle?
What?
We got you.
I'm traveling the world?
Hold on to your hat. Who's next?
I want to play with all the League of Legends champions.
Riot benefits. Say less. We got you.
I'm not the ones in the game.
You're in the game now. Get all this and more with PC Game Pass. You know what I'm gonna say. Yeah, we got you.
Nice! Good job! Nice kayak, bro! Pike. Nice! Good job, kayak, bro! Nice! Nice! Nice!
Chronicle is fired up after that map win over Team Vitality, and can you blame him? I'm your host, so I'm back here with Kakuka and Billy. That was the one map that we were for sure thinking that Vitality were going to bring home with no problems. What happened?
I was worried. I was really worried. I said before we even got into it, the only time that Vitality have lost this map was against G2 Esports. So Fnatic on par with G2, are we back? We're so back, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And the casters were mentioning, we also mentioned that this has been historically a very good map from Fnatic, and we were just bumping in with how Chronicle was feeling. And one of the things we saw through during that map one, back on Split, was Chronicle struggling a lot at the beginning of the round, especially on the defense, because he was being challenged time and time again. But when we look at the performance that he just had, so many rounds went his way. He was also able to like individually shine. When we look about the first bloods and first deaths, even though the numbers are not very outrageous, is more on the defense that we're focused on and the comfort that he found.
Oh yeah, I love that you bring that up, because I think in the previous match, like we were a little bit concerned on Split, you know, the amount of kind of first kills that he was giving away, constantly dying in the same positions as well, in untradeable positions. It just wasn't ideal for him, but I think going into this one, he really, you know, he brought it back for himself. He was a highlight.
And I like how fired up he gets, because he's one of those players that doesn't usually, right? We expect the alphas and the boasters to be that fired up. So it's nice to see the side of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because I would have been a little bit pissed off if throughout the most part of Split, I just feel like they're challenging me, and I feel targeted.
Yeah, he got his revenge there, and it was really done through just the clutches, the late rounds, the moments where it really matters. We see Kakuka, the Fnatic player, stepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. We were speaking about how close that split was, how everything was to the brink of the second, how we didn't see players and teams throw in advantages and whatnot, but actually Fnatic coming together, it doesn't matter if it's in a disadvantage. We saw this brilliant round with them getting the 4v2, but we also saw it as the map was getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I think what you find as well in a lot of these clutch situations is it's all like different members of Fnatic. It's not just relying on one sole person, and a lot of these clutches were in post plants too, so it's not like Vitality weren't being able to work their way back in. They were getting it into these numbers where they had the number advantage going into that retake. It's just that Fnatic, they were just so synergized and riled up with one another.
It's their home ground, isn't it? It's like we've done this on Lotus before. It takes us back. And for Alpha, the only player across any regional league right now that plays Killjoy on Lotus, we never see this. But as you mentioned before, you guys mentioned it, it matters what player is on what agent, right? And when you see him on this, it doesn't matter about the meta. The meta doesn't matter.
The thing is, there is very few agents that I'd be like, why would you put Alpha on that? Killjoy is definitely not one of them. And especially thinking of what the next map is going to be, it is good to see that he's feeling himself and that it doesn't matter what he is playing at, he's going to have a good performance.
I think as well, even when we look at his Killjoy specifically on the defense on that map just then, like he wasn't just waiting and playing passively, he was playing in front of his utility. So even if the Tejo,
he always
literally, no, but like even if like we're saying the Tejo utility does kind of, you know, get rid of that Killjoy utility, he was just so confident in being able to play in front of it. So yeah, it didn't really matter at that point.
And Billy, how much will this confidence help Fnatic as we pivot to a map where Alpha plays ISO?
Oh my god, it's only going to go through the roof at this point. And I think as well, we touched on it on the pre-show, you know, about Vitality saying that, oh, we can take their Haven comp and we can make it better. I think this will be a real test as to what they've said, if that's actually true.
Yeah, speaking of Dirk saying, it's not only about the comp, it's the fact that I am playing on is what I do to this composition, is what I mean to the end result. Even though this was a 13-6, we need to keep in mind, Vitality won both pistols. They also converted the next one. So in gun rounds, the disparity is a little bit concerning when we move on to the third one, because when we talk about being comfortable, hitting the shots, playing as a team, being ready to take the disadvantages, be ready to be trading for those duels, right now the momentum is on Fnatic's side.
And it's very concerning them throwing a 5v2 and a 5v3 after an entire split where they made 0 mistakes almost. But onto the comps here, do you want to see Safe on the ISO or the Jet?
I would love to see a mirror so we can test everyone like pound for pound if they really think that they can make it better. I want to see it. I want them. I don't want to see it. I want them to prove it.
Yeah, no, I am completely on the same page as you. Like, I want Safe to be playing that ISO. If you guys are going to come onto post plan and say, you know, we can make this composition better, we can run it better. Okay, let's see it then.
And I want to bring out my one fun fact of the day, which is Boaster has a 100% success rate in the ISO Ultimate. 1 out of 1, and it was against Safe. So yeah, he's only ever won the 1 out of 1, but it's still 100% win rate. So maybe Safe brings it back out. We can have that duel going again, because you know that players, they want to go to Boaster's side. Traditionally, it's like, you know, you think that's a free side, but today is not. That's not been the storyline.
No, absolutely. And I would also love to see the head-to-head in the Ultimate between Safe and Alpha. I want to see, because of course he's gonna get his numbers, the other one's gonna get his. But what about the head-to-head?
He's suffered enough from Meteor at this point. I think he's suffered so much on the global stage. This will be a good place, Billy, like you said, for them to just prove it. Because if they're gonna come out and say these things, they have to back it up.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. But even looking at this fan vote at the moment, people seem to be riding on the wave of Fnatic taking that second map. And I guess the saving grace for Vitality right now is that it was such a close map against Navi when we saw Fnatic play them. Like the fact that it got to 15-13 and it had to be a comeback. Yeah, it's a little. I guess that is the saving grace for Vitality.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah. You have to bounce back if you are Vitality, if you want to, you know, keep that place as the #1 in EMEA. And I love that you mentioned it. The only time that we've seen Fnatic this year playing on Haven with this composition that we're discussing, it was against that Navi. It was that comeback that they had to perform. And not only that, it was Alpha. If you guys remember, he stood up and he said, "I am not losing this. I do not care what I need to do or I have to do." And we just saw him from the defense just pushing through mid, pushing through C, pushing through garage. It doesn't freaking matter. He just thought, we are winning this. I do not care who's on the other side.
And if he was like that against Navi, what's he going to be like against Derka if it gets to that point?
He better not be spraying anybody's. I don't want to see that coming out of him.
He made it personal now. He made it personal.
But the problem is that was a mental step up. It wasn't a physical. His butt was glued to his chair against Navi. And we saw every single time this man steps out of his chair is insta GG. The karma works so fast in this scenario, which brings us back to the fact that this is still a grudge match. This is still all about Derka versus Fnatic, and what are they going to play? Are they going to bring back the ice?
Wait, what?
They will, but it's Sivov and Safe is going to play Sova.
This is one of the things that I had in my head, because if you look at Vitality, currently the most experienced Sova is freaking Derke. So if you go into this map, you want to keep the Sova, you have Sivov. Are you going to put him in the open, give kicks the Sova? And the solution is keeping Safe on that initiator role, a little bit like the Tejo, but a little bit less of damage and utility, and Sivov on the ISO.
I honestly am really shocked at this, and I think as well, as much as we had said that Vitality's roles are kind of smoothed out now, looking at this Haven, I don't know if I stand by that statement anymore. We have seen Kix play the Omen on a couple of maps previously, but again, it was that Sova. Who is going to play Sova? And it looks as though Safe is looking to lead his team from the front on that agent.
Yeah, I'm so surprised, because this has to be the first time that Sivov even plays this agent in unofficial. We're speaking about the head-to-heads that we were thinking of seeing, but this changes everything. How is he going to measure up against Alpha here?
And of course, Safe. Normally it's Leo playing the Sova, or Trex playing the Sova, but it's Safe doing it right here, right now. We've had a great series so far. Mitch and Tom, I cannot wait to see how this is going to end.
Well, quite a surprise. Not necessarily in the comp being run. I think it's a good idea from Vitality. It's a comp we've seen have legs, but Sivov?
Yeah, I think the Des touched on it, but Kix has only played Sova 6 times. He plays a lot of the other initiators, but Sova was never really in his wheelhouse or something that he proficiently played. So there had to be a choice made, and Safe is definitely someone who can play that initiator, but it's whether or not Sivov is going to be up to the standard. Now, aim-wise, no question. There is not a question, but he's normally not so aggressive this round already. He's looking for that fight. It's actually Alpha here on the other side. And well, Derka, Sivov, they will combine immediately. What a start.
A scrappy start indeed, but it's sort of what you expect, right? Running this composition, unless I'm mistaken as well, this will be the first time we've ever seen Sivov play this in an official. But when it comes to ISO, When it comes to this man,
This is his
second,
map, right? He got, was it 38 kills on Haven as a breach? So you then put him on an ISO. If anything, it should be easier.
45 minimum. Let's set the bar here and now. Anything short of it, he's throwing. But no, like he's played unbelievable. I think individually this guy is just off the charts, second only to Zeus in week 1, and a chance to build up those stats again here now in the role where it makes a bit more sense, where that expectation can be put onto a Kayak. A double.
Spike down A.
Nicely done, but anything further will be impossible with Sivov quickly shutting him down. Crashies, the last man standing, 1v3.
Planted.
And already he's going to be caught, suppressed, and taken out by Kicks. 1-0 start for Vitality.
When we go out there,
See how that setup can work in that sort of team environment. It's obviously a pretty vast change, but one that they feel works the best. Just this 1-2 punch still looking exactly the same. That's the thing. It's in essence, it's a shame that we don't get to see the battle
This is how we should play every
exactly
single round.
how we wanted it. And well, there you go. If there's anybody listening from Fnatic, that's how they're going to play every single round.
There you go. Someone let Scott know. Let Milan
I think he
in on
lied
the
to me.
info.
They're not going to see long.
What? How could he do such a thing? But yeah, you know, you look back at last map as well, Tom, and I think like you can't undersell how bad that was for Vitality. They win the pistol, they win the follow-up two times, and they walk out with 6 rounds. That is astonishing. And for Fnatic, it was a big shutdown, but here on Haven, we could see the same thing. Pistol goes to Vitality, follow-up should be theirs. This is a classic buy from Fnatic. Not investing anything, essentially. A few pieces of utility, but even then, you expect them to be held on until the next round. Reveal sees that there's nothing outside A, and the push up here from Kayak be initiated.
I think a good sign for Fnatic going forward into this match is the fact that you have seen some excellent play from Chronicle in the last. Like, he is someone that, when he's online, as I said, he's almost impossible to stop. So the fact that you're going to have this aggressive defensive side, you're going to have that combination of Kayak and Alfia looking for fights across the map, you need an anchor. You need someone who's going to hold ground, especially on a map like Haven with 3 sites. Chronicle is your man. So that's where I'm going to be focused, even though it's very easy to look for the craziness what we brought forward. See, I think he might have missed that lineup when they were going in the first time. Well, not in the previous round, in this one. So I think that was just to see if he could do it again. I don't even know if that actually had any value. Yeah, I think it was just like, let me check I got my lineup correct.
Fair play. Sometimes it has to be done. Down to the spike. The rest of the Fnatic members go, and this is the early round formalities out of the way. Low buy from Fnatic. Vitality do well to not step into a trap. And now, the full buy from both sides. There was
look, there you go. There's the first one.
No need to show that.
But that's the thing. I like the fact he goes back and goes, let me just check that. Yep, okay, that's right. There he goes. Does it again.
Right click is to bounce, right, guys?
And that's obviously if there's any trip up close, that will remove it from position. So, but I like that. You've already won the round, so you go, okay. I'm you know, getting the rust off. No, I'm not really playing that Sova as much nowadays, so I don't mind it.
150 credits just to check. Why not? It's a low investment. So here we go. Fnatic, they get the rifles up. And on the defense, this is where things really start to heat up. Alfier on the ISO, a big challenge for anybody to face off against, as we have seen a million times over. Betting Crashies, interesting call. The flash up from Kayak, they're going to swing deep, but Vitality are playing super passive, allowing them to grab that early information. The rotation now from that gate crash towards the C site. The step back on A as we slowly see Alfier look to reinforce.
Look how high this trip is. I don't know if anybody, because you're going to have the cage probably popped off rip. They've already got close enough that it's not going to matter as much. Just utilizing that gate crash, basically running in, destroying the trap, and then falling away back towards A. It will hold players there for sure.
There was a moment where it did look like Alpha was going to go towards spawn, fill in the gap on B, but they're relatively confident with leaving C kind of open. And then the B side had 2 players on it. No contact, no moves. Well, okay. Boaster says you can go on over and help out that A site. Kayak's now here, 3 players. Boaster even starts to get an inkling that this could be the A hit, and so he's now ready to pop the paranoia. It's perfect, but Vitality still come ahead. They cannot expect these numbers to still be here. Now they will. Alpha was the one to find the kill with Boaster going down. 12 seconds left. The plant needs to be found. The spike on backside and undeniable. They ran into almost the entire team. A dump of utility and big swings from Fnatic. But Vitality, they've dealt with everything that came their way. And a 3v1 where Chronicle, as good as he's been, seems to just be locked out.
That's incredibly impressive. This is Fnatic's first buy round. And what basically happened there was they sold the fake on C, but I think it was Kayak then jump peeks it, just goes and checks and goes, I have seen nothing. So I'm going to rotate to the other side of the map. Then they rotate a 4th player in. And if you have that much of a stack and you come out with 2 kills, well, either you've done something bad or your opponents have done something incredibly well. And I think that, again, we're seeing the heat of Sivo very early on in this game. I think it can be a brutal sort of switch if you go onto that ISO and you start badly, especially as someone who's used to having the Omen, used to having extra util to maybe back you up. This is all about those firefights. Well, it's 4-0 right now.
Not a bad start from him, and a phenomenal start for this squad. Again, look at that. They deal with Durka. One of the big problems creating that extra angle to fight from. Paranoia hits. Oh! He just saw him before it landed. And even then, Alpha are finding that 1 kill. The fact that they had a late player coming up short played perfectly into Vitality's hands because they're able to spot out the last guy, the 4th player, the one that would surprise you normally. He gets 1, and then he's dealt with. Wonderful stuff for Vitality. An inspiring round for their squad, no doubt. It's not just the fact that they beat down the first full buy, it's that Fnatic read that play perfectly, stacked up, and it still didn't work. Now they've got a light investment into this one. Chronicle saved over that Vandal and has the regenerating shields to bring him back up to fighting form, but early on, Vitality again avoid any of this early aggression from Fnatic from going down in those fights, and it looks like they have picked the easier of the sites to push towards. Okay. That's the rifle for Fnatic though, and Chronicle picks up the kill.
Not a bad start. So, weapon down.
Spike planted.
Potential to utilize what they've got. Unfortunately, there's no ultimates, and even utility, you're kind of looking at, you've got the dart back online, a drone. Paranoia would have to be sublimely placed. Kick still has 1 remaining, is wary that they're already coming in from behind. In fact, though, it's going to be that short play, but Sivov again! You talk about this guy already being, I think it was 4-0 going into this round, but he's fighting aggressively. He's facing off against opponents. Oh, okay. Kayak eventually gets the job done, but Sivov is just flying. Another added to the tally, another round for Vitality. 4-0 now in the lead, which, considering how that round started, that could have been a lot more costly.
And what I love about that is as soon as the Paranoia, which was well placed, landed on the site, the immediate swing from Sivov.
Yeah.
He was there for his teammate no matter what. Happy to take the brunt of that retake force. And while he dealt with them, well, it seemed to be easily.
I'm back.
4-0. Vitality are back in the driver's seat.
This is said I'm back when Sivov got a triple kill in a round and earned his ult.
Safe got one.
I'm back, guys.
There's the shock landing. Good job they tested it earlier. Kayak knows there's players coming his way. Has a gate crash to get out of there. Decoy not going to be working. They know that he's here. Yeah, they saw the reveal, and yeah, time to get out.
I guess the only benefit there is some utility. Chronicle's got to be careful. I don't know if he's realized how far forward into the site he has managed to get. Sivov fighting up against Chronicle, and while he has not been missing so far, Kayak still at the back of the site though, has been able to get 1 and escapes once again. The second gate crash utilized Durka. Seems like he might try something cheeky of his own.
Yeah, but he's conscious there's either a player or perhaps even the player he was just hunting down on the other side of the smoke. Doesn't want to emerge from it. Ultimate activated from Kayak. Gonna clear out a lot of space. He didn't clear the corner.
Check.
But Les doesn't know. He doesn't know. He just knows that that player ran out there. He panics. He pops the cage. Information at least goes their way, and Kayak realizes, hearing the steps, that there's still one outside garage. We'll look to crunch on him later. And the push with the smoke up, Fnatic, they stand a decent chance. I love that from Alpha. The wall is gonna block them all from spams completely. It's almost fully diffused, but Alpha's been taken off the spike. A second player, Crashies, steps in and he steps out just as quick. Sevov with a 3-piece in this round. Vitality are hammering Fnatic into the dirt.
It's actually crazy that we talk about this squad and the fact that Trex has been a highlight player throughout VCT EMEA for the past few years. They pick up a man from the Tier 2 playing for Mandatory who was doing very well. 3rd place in the first EMEA challenges. And now he's coming in against Fnatic. 10-0. 2 kills a round at the moment for Sevov. And they're not just like your run-of-the-mill eco frags or like picking off players who are already stunned or flashed up. That was integral kills to stop them defusing. He's delivering on the highest level right now.
Well, the conversations we had about Durka and Kayak and the storylines between the two, the pressure on Kayak to fill the boots of Durka while Durka wants to take his boots back. But really, for someone like Sevov coming into this map up against Alpha here on the ISO, one of the best ISOs in the world, you gotta think that even if you can exist in his shadow, that's a success. But right now, he is shining a new light on Fnatic. Fnatic with a decent step up from Kayak. 2-piece already, Les and Durka down and out. But the man who's yet to taste death, Sevov, still alive, and weaker weapons, still what they're working with. Nothing recovered by that defensive side.
Both Boaster and Kayak being able to get something, but not able to fall back into things. The shield helping out massively. Hunter's Fury utilized and will pick off Sevov. It's an investment, but that has garnered a reward. And you can see the long run around from Crashies. He's hoping to try and find a weapon on his way back, or potentially box them in. The rest of the players are going to have to wait for him to get into position. That time will continue to tick. And that also means that they won't have his utility until he reveals himself.
Very much worthwhile, though, with that smoke put down by Boaster. Cerebral, well, I thought because he could sneak his way through, but the reveal is needed, broken, and some information to work with here. Trade starts out well. Crashies on the recovered rifle, but now he's the last one standing safe, looking to run away. Has Hunter's Fury, if he can get to safe distance to activate. Instead, he's looking for the kill, but Crashies made the read. He suspected that's where safe would take it, and with enough time to bring this across the line, Fnatic are on the board at last with a pay safeguard thrifty.
Incredibly close. I think those early fights being taken, utilizing the Sheriffs to great effect. But then it was that response, and also the reaction with the Hunter's Fury. This was just absurd. Like, both spamming at a box and ends up taking Durka for his money. Les with maybe a little bit of a late check of that corner. Solid work from Crashies, finding one with a Hunter's Fury and a couple more. They're on the board.
Let's go, let's go.
It took them some time.
This is the evac round. Let's go.
Looking for 2.
Alfia believes this is the moment that things will change. Have to wait and see. This attack has been devastating so far.
That's hilarious. I think the reveal got stuck on the decoy, and because it hasn't got line of sight, you're not getting revealed by it. So it's able to push up on the back of it. It'll be confusing to look at from the other side, but I guess Chronicle wasn't that confused. He's just wall-banged Durka straight through the boxes, through the wall there, through 2 walls. You can see the holes just fading now. Not a bad opener for Fnatic, and they still have that operator of Kayak lurking into the late round.
Looking at the kill contract as well.
Nowhere to
Potential from Alfia to make this fight more awkward. Solid work though from Safe. The lineup might have been missed once, but the Hunter's Fury will put them back at level peg. And Alfia, in the meantime, though, has managed to re-aggress and find less. This puts this into just the players looking to make their way into the B site. There goes that kill contract, looking for the fight, looking to try and take the battle, and he will win it at that. A clean sweep with a double from Boaster. Fnatic start their climb.
One step at a time from Fnatic as Vitality, well, Sevov, He's not immortal anymore. 11-2. Still, though, if he can just find a fraction of the flame he had moments ago, this could be a very different game we're looking at. That was nasty. I don't even know what he's shooting at. I didn't see him either time, but fair enough. And a big play by Boaster in the end. He had one of the best openers. I think he was 14-3 at the end of the first half of splits, somewhere along those lines. Didn't slow down that much as the series, or the map, well, the map that felt like a series went on. You have to think that stamina would always be a problem in a match like this. It's gone the distance, and we're on map 3, but both teams, it doesn't look like either are pulling punches.
They proved as well that a 5-0 start doesn't mean jack. Like, both of these sides are very comfortable in streaking rounds back together.
I got the spike.
The last map was far more dominant for Fnatic. It's been a slower start. That's much better though. Safe already dealt with. Now pushing back into this stacked up A side. It was where they had mass success in their bonus round. Even walking into a stack of players, their execution was sublime. See if they can get anything done here.
Corner. It's going to be cleared by the decoy at least. And Seavoff the one to win that battle up against Alfier. Ult activated in the kill contract. He's been good in these, but Boaster, in a heater of a series, doesn't stand a chance against Seavoff. 4v2. Fnatic seemingly locked out, and the much more direct approach from Vitality has worked wonderfully.
A-side takes have been really impressive. Space taken by Durka, then Seaborth on the follow-up. It seems like somehow an even deadlier combination than when we had Safe on it, which seems ludicrous to say when you look back to, again, the #1 and #2 duelists of the year coming out of last year. But it seems like, again, the youngsters come up from that tier 2 scene and prove that there is such a wealth of talent within EMEA right now. What was looking like the start of a comeback for Fnatic has quickly been dealt with. And honestly, if I'm Vitality at this point, there is a part of my mind that goes, do we just fight for A every round? Because that's the second time. What was it? 4 players stacked up there the first time.
Yep.
This time it was 3 players stacked up there. And okay, sure, there was an ult in the mix as well that dragged the player into a 1v1, but other than that, it has looked very, very easy for them to take that control.
Still, the ult dragged them into a 1v1, and I guess stopped that from being a double peek or at least a refrag from backside, sure, but they'd also lost long control. So that player on backside, although they get pulled into the kill contract, they had a choice. Fight short with my teammate and get swung on the left side and die, or fight long, and it's still 2 1v1s. Situation doesn't change. So I think that push, very effective from Vitality. And like you said, 2 times now, we've seen that. We've seen numbers be there, and it didn't work out. For Fnatic, something needs to change in terms of that A-hold. And I think, yeah, that is the typical response, right? Start pushing up and taking the early control, or post your operator there in the early rounds. But again, there's problems with that. I mean, just look at how Vitality are pushing into those long-range angles. You're often going to see that wall come up from ISO, just completely blocking you out. We can just see standard long smokes go down. The responses and reactions, but there's plenty of them for Vitality with the comp that they're bringing to bear here.
Definitely makes it a lot more difficult. And the other thing as well is, like, going for those long fights when there's going to be the opportunity for Sivo to potentially have the double tap available. He is 13-2. Like, it can come down to as simply as shooting him in the face. It's not an easy thing to deal with, especially for Kayak going in with a lack of shields. It does seem like Fnatic, though, are going to try and respond to what has been that A pressure. They have set up 4 players to battle for that early control. The problem is, it's only the lurk that's currently there from Les. Instead, an initial fight for Garage in what looks like a C-long fight.
Exactly as you said, Fnatic do go for a long control. They push up, and now they find out it's the other side of the map that's being hit. But I guess we get to put to the test Vitality's post plant. Double tap, the shield that ISO has will not be online as it's already been activated and no success found. So Seavoff at least will be a little easier to take down. This position, key for Vitality in the late round. Les's lurks, we've talked about them. They've been impactful, and yeah, they're going to clear the standard side. Will they clear the left, though? For now, the answer is no. Oh, the timing! He went to his cam just as Chronicle swung out, and now the ult indeed gives all the info to Fnatic.
Dimensional drift has been picked up by Durka though. If they are going to try and defuse, he can ping exactly where they are already. The spam's coming through, already knowing that it's halfway, but just shoot me, my friend. That's all that's really needed. Well played by Durka and Safe, a duo as deadly as ever. And what was looking like a possible round after Les was cleared quickly turned to ash.
Yeah, I mean, they were pressured by the time, but once Vitality have an ult like that, you can't be defusing the spike on the other side of a smoke. And they would have to be some silly geese.
Right here.
And he goes again, look, Crashy's, I know he has almost no choice based on the time, but I think you just run away and save at that point rather than stick it. An easy reaction from Vitality, and look at how happy Faded is with how that one went. The guy that sometimes keeps his emotions in check, but he couldn't help but crack a smile there.
Stood in the spot where the shock dart has been going every round. That's rough for Boaster.
Great play.
He's yeah, immediately gone. Like, maybe not having that info, but that's a rough way to start the round.
If he doesn't have that info, it's going to be conversations with Chronicle, because it's his trap that's getting dealt with a lot of the rounds. I think even as a cam watching it happen, so he's just going, oh yeah, Boaster, it's great. Yeah, you should hold from there. Yeah, we'll hold it together. I'll swing on your contact, yeah?
Remember when you made me do those dances? This is my revenge. He has gone walkabouts. They do still have a couple of guns. Boaster wasn't the biggest threat in this round. They are patient to mod the jump up from Althea. It's not been the best map for him so far. I think of the ISOs, there hasn't really been a question which one has taken over. Chronicle's rifle is still well positioned, but is slowly moving away. Will have heard utility being popped. He's going to hope that he can try something a little bit spicy, a little bit tricky, knowing that there's a player on the other side. I think that only ended up breaking the shield. That's unfortunate. Oh, for Crash, he's spoke about his individual level looking stellar. I don't know if it's up to this standard.
Maybe he pops the Hunter's Fury and takes down 4, you know, who knows? But I think if he did pop the Hunter's Fury, we'd have to pause the game while Fnatic pull a sub onto the stage. A questionable decision. I can't believe Dirk has just done that. He saw him and didn't even bat an eyelid, just jumping around for the bait.
He's done that a couple of times, though. I feel like Durka is one of those players where I hear a lot of people go like, I'm not a stats guy. I don't
care about stats. No.
I genuinely think he doesn't.
No.
Like, as long as the first
if he cares about stats and does that.
Yeah. I think the first number, like how many he's killed, I think he cares a bit about that.
Well, he could have had another one there.
True.
Look at this, he takes his gun out.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're getting they're kicked.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's run that one back. 8-2. Vitality, well, they've even got some flair to their gameplay right now, and I'll tell you, it can't feel good to see Durka doing that up against you. You know he's having fun, and you want to quickly put that to bed. 2 rounds left in the half. Vitality, oh, they lose the opening pick. Seavoff down. Who steps up to fill the gap? Boaster onto Durka. Kicks. He's had some good maps so far. Boaster's barely making it out. They won't be able to hunt it down. Alpha pops the double tap, sends in a vulnerable 2. A real opportunity, and with the Hunter's Fury landing onto Kicks, this round seems to be cemented in favor of Fnatic. Some real heroic gameplay needs to be found, and Safe, well, he's certainly going to give it his best shot. 2v3.
It's Hunter's Fury as well. Using it in this spot's always going to be difficult. Less field dimensional drift thrown in. They're going to have seen the aggression. Boaster can just wait on the other side, and now Less. He's got to pull off a miracle. Nice shot for the first. Even trying to wait for that dimensional drift to end, but it was well timed by Fnatic. It took a moment for them to get back onto that board, but they will see themselves up to 3 at least.
Yeah, again, the foundation's being built 1 brick at a time. 1 more needed for Fnatic to have that 8-4, 1 more to be contested for. And it's this hold working out much better. You know, the direct hits from Vitality have been successful a lot of the time. Well, I mean, everything's been
Good
successful
job. Nice comms,
for
Sky.
Vitality so far. Trying to get in there and force the issue. They very much met their match. Sevoff falling in the early round. Well, that seems to be where hope fades at least somewhat. Guys, 14-4 at the moment. We came in questioning, you know, oh, can he match up against Alpha here on the ISO? Well, he has done leagues better so far. I think he might have as many kill contract eliminations as Alphair has just kills.
Oh, that's
full
not
stop.
necessary.
But it's true.
It is.
I think. But maybe it's not. Could be 2 out of 3, but still.
Tide can always change. As we've seen in map number 1 especially. Some momentum on the attack for Fnatic, and who knows where this series ends up. I would be a fool to count out either of these squads, but it does seem like the mentality of Vitality right now is just flying. Confidence, having fun. So looking at the position though of Alpha, it's the setup of almost like a bait of Crashies who's played this spot before. The A site holds have really not been going to plan, but maybe if they can catch out less, it will be a slight improvement.
Oh, they see exactly where that player is. Happy to take the assist. Crashies being spammed up, and the shock dart finds him. Vitality. Oh, they still have a problem to deal with. Ultimate put through by Alphair, and he's managed to pull Kicks into a battle for his life. The shots don't land though, and it's Kicks to return with Safe on the triple. It's enough to put Vitality 9-3 up at the half.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Fnatic a first half with much to be desired, and the new boy on the block, Sevoff, thriving, Safe alongside him as well. But there is still a second half to come. If you're a Fnatic fan, you best believe in curses.
It's the first time I beat him, guys. Ever.
Red Bull gives you wings.
What are you still doing here? You still have not downloaded Pi Adblock? You know I'm just gonna keep showing up on your screen until you download it, right? Honestly, it's 2025. No one is watching ads anymore, not even me, and I'm literally in the ads. We have downloaded Pi, the free Chrome extension that blocks ads on all your favorite sites. It takes like 2 seconds to install, and then you can just use the internet freely and you forget about all the ads that used to be there. Unless you still want ads, because with Pi, you can opt in to see a limited number of ads and then earn rewards for the ads that you do see. You can even control what ads you want to keep and which ones you want to block. Like I actually do shop from these kinds of ads, so I just keep Pi disabled. And if it sounds too good to be true, it's not. Like there are over 1 million users and tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. If you've made it this far in the ad, like what are you doing? Skip it already. And also download Pi.
Choose Winters & Yonker, and we will send an attorney to you for your auto accident. I'm Bill Winters. If you've been injured in an accident, call Winters & Yonker so we can start working on your case. Call Winters & Yonker for your free attorney consultation.
Welcome back, folks. An uphill battle ahead for Fnatic, moving to the attack side of Haven, but 6 rounds down. What a performance. We talk about debuts, and for Sevoff debuting in the league, he blew our socks off, and now I believe in his debut on ISO, he's doing just the same. It's really impressive to see this guy play, but both teams as well, and I feel like this has been true series long, maybe less so on Lotus, where again Vitality just found themselves throwing bodies into brick walls. but it feels like we have this, especially on Split, constant rethinking of the strategies, constant evolution round to round. It's been fun to watch, but let's hope Fnatic have got a big learning experience about this attack side.
The scary thing is the last 4 pistols of the 5 have gone the way of Vitality. They have been dominant in these early rounds. Only the very first went the way of Fnatic, but they need to try and match up with what will be the last one. That's not a bad start. Alfia, a quiet first half, but he's already going to open up in the pistol.
On the attack as well. If anywhere you want Alfia to be confident, I think this half matters the most. Aggression is necessary. You will be the point of the spear. Double tap activated. In goes Kayak first, though. He's got the full HP to work with, and not anymore. A cleanup of the double duelists moving through the double doors. And Vitality even find Crashies with Seavoff on a huge kill. Fnatic way behind now. This started out with an opening duel, and they've got nothing ever since.
Never expected 2 players to be sat behind the door, and Garage is such an unusual position to see 2 people stand. Again, in a buy round, you'd probably never do that because of the risks with utility going through, flashes, etc. But in this case, less gambled on it. Boaster trying to bait out,
30 seconds left.
Push through spawn as well. They're hoping to try and find a fight, but the majority of this roster has looked to group up for Vitality. All 4 players wrapping around mid, and the double tap is just a goal to sell the idea that they're on B. Maybe there's a small chance for an isolated fight, but it really comes down to Chronicle here. Did he get seen?
He's gone all the way around. No, he's not being seen. Now he has. Seavoff picked off, and Les, sure, finishes him off eventually. That's going to put Boaster in a bit of an awkward spot. They're not going together, despite kicks being very low.
Oh no.
Durka swinging alone goes down too! Boaster with the lifeline for Fnatic. The Red Bull clutch, and he's dropping it back on the stage. Oh, goodness.
Oh, that's crazy. It's only the one coming out of Chronicle as well, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a sixth sense, but if you watch the way that Les ends up moving, it seems like he's aware that somehow Chronicle is behind. It becomes...
Boom, 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 yaka!
Irrelevant is what I was going to say. It becomes irrelevant when you have Boaster doing stuff like that. They needed someone to give them a lifeline. They needed someone to win them a pistol. And it's the man dancing on your screen.
I really hope we are going to go back to Milan and Scud there and see them imitating the exact same
I think
move,
they twerked just afterwards.
Yeah. I think so. We cut the replay short. That's... Look, send it to me in the DMs later. We'll get that one sorted. Vitality 9-4. Fnatic win a pistol that they didn't seem to have any right in winning, especially with Chronicle not having the mass value that it seemed like he needed. But Boaster, good in the clutch and good in this series as well, has given them a lifeline. Vitality, take classics, 5 of them. No real investment to this round, and honestly, if they end up winning it, let's just call it there.
Don't want to get danced on too many more times. It can't be good for the mental. Fnatic's goal with 3 rifles, 2 pistols is just to keep this clean enough. Doesn't have to be the greatest round you've ever seen. They lose a pistol or 2, and that's absolutely fine. You can see the defense. They're attempting to swing back in. I like the usage of the vulnerability. Well, Durka, with any other gun, I'd say he's got an easy pickoff. Instead, he's been seen. This now becomes much, much tougher.
That should be impossible, especially with the classics. Durka can't do anything long range. Down to just 1. Kicks happy enough to find a single kill. Boaster's low. Some opportunities, perhaps. Oh, desperately close to connecting, but it won't land, and so an extra rifle saved over. But that was really the only question, was it 2 or 3? Maybe even 1 if he had a big round. 9-5, Fnatic 4 rounds behind, but here's the full buy for Vitality, and let's not forget, even in that pistol, they were able to find mass amounts of value in the late round. I think this is going to be a big challenge for FNC.
We are feeling it. I can feel it in my face.
I'm glad that's where that went. I was very worried about what was about to happen, but we ended up in a good spot.
The team doing the censorship do a great job. I don't think anything ever falls through the cracks.
Never.
But this is the round that matters. Fnatic, this bonus is basically as good as it gets. Okay, sure, no ultimates built up other than the From the Shadows, but having rifles across the board, Boaster teleporting into the site. This is a very aggressive start to the round. In fact, they'll get the plant in on B without too much resistance at all. Incredibly quick to get that done, and now we look for what Vitality will respond.
They've at least still got that trap to cover off Garage. Even despite that, Durka's not happy with the control. Can't just fight in from a few angles. He wants to open this up a little bit more, but he's fighting into heavy Fnatic territory. Sivov, the return of perhaps the king, certainly on this server, but he's been put down quickly. Returned by Les, keeps it doable. Boaster and Chronicle put this to bed though. And Les, despite tapping, he is quickly out of there. No real chance to take this across the line. All he wants is the weapon for the next, or perhaps damage, because he's got a fight brewing, and now they know right where he is. He'll make it out with 50 HP. It looks like he'll even carry the weapon forward.
Yeah, it's something, but that round from Fnatic, I love it. It's just so direct, so quick to the point. Like, a lot of the time when you play up against a quote-unquote bonus, even though it was 5 rifles, you have the expectation that maybe your opponent's going to play a little bit slower, try and feel out the map a bit, and then look to work the picks. Instead,
Holy
they
shit,
just go full sprint. I guess they didn't catch that one.
Is it hot in here?
What?
3 rounds.
What time is it? We passed the watershed? We allowed to put this on the internet? 9-6. That was such an integral round, though. Les is going to hold on to the rifle. That's all they really have to play with. On this defensive side, Ultimate's also starting to build. Alfia wasn't happy with the space that was taken. He wants to really sell the idea that this is a heavy commitment in towards the seaside, but with nobody pushing anywhere near the smoke, I think Vitality will very quickly realize that that was a ruse.
Well, the shield was broken. Alfier was stepping back, but for Vitality, exactly like you said, they made the read. Seaside's been left open. Gradual shift towards the right side of the map. Right where that Fnatic hit is coming through. 2 players on site already, rotation in from kicks. If you're gonna make it work in a round like this, Les with a rifle and his setup to play off and support of many, many players, this is exactly what you would want. Once he doesn't take his cam out before the fight, he's ready once these cages drop. The Vandal could catch them off guard, but it doesn't even get a shot fired before Kayak steps up to the plate. A nasty little double, and Durka won't get anything from behind, bar the one. It's certainly not enough to slow the gradual push of Fnatic. 2 rounds behind, and Vitality, they might be starting to sweat a little bit. We're coming into a bye round, but if this one falls away, then we could be neck and neck.
Yeah, we're seeing an almost identical start. It was 5-0 for the Vitality team. They've said how little that can matter at times, but
Enemy remaining.
Took a pretty hefty response.
Good job, bro. Bro, I feel like Pipson running around. I have no clue what's going on.
What? Nobody send that to him. Nobody send that to him.
Yeah. No,
I want to show that to him next week with the 2 of them in the same room.
Oh my god. I don't idea.
That's incredible.
Boaster definitely doesn't know he's being outed right now.
Boaster, mate. That's the most toxic I've ever heard Boaster be. I need more of that.
That's crazy. Wow, look at the pace. I think they've had the realization, similarly to the last half, that this A side has been incredibly difficult for both sides. And with a more direct take, well, Dirk is way too slow to realize what's going on. Chronicle removes safe, and this is basically round over. There's still a minute left on the clock, but are you going to try and fight back in with 3 of your players still standing? No Yoru, and you don't have yourself the Sova either. It just doesn't seem worth it. They've just got to save.
What just happened? Like, genuinely, what just happened? Durka must have heard him go backside. Must have heard him come out of his ult. Was he hit by a paranoia and I just somehow didn't notice? It's a slip up and a slight, like a couple second reaction in it, but that's going to cost you the round immediately. And you can see Vitality call for the save right off rip as soon as they lose that sight. Even just the utility that Fnatic will, in their heads, still have left to play with, there's no point. And add to that, Alfier's got his ult, so good luck defusing.
Wow, they're looking for the guns now. Rightly so. You are looking at a 5-0 lead, and well, hello. That's where one of the guns are. But they also have so many credits in the bank. The rest of the team are going to look to try and trade this one out. Not quite. Les will hold his ground. Give him a tight angle. Give him a position to play within. Well, it seems like it's going to be a slow. What has been a very, very fast-paced Haven so far. Much more direct approach from Fnatic, but it really does feel like right now Vitality is struggling to deal with it. You can kind of understand it in this round where you have a dimensional drift to get you into position, but the round before they did a very similar thing. A hit towards that A site, even with a stack in position, the execution has been fantastic. And well, the only thing slowing Fnatic down is that technical pause.
Yeah, the climb back is significant. We have seen it before. The 5-0 start and a half for exactly the same team as well. Vitality faced down the barrel of this on split, ended up sweeping back and winning out in overtime.
This map as well. We're looking at exactly the same thing. We are mirroring the map. And well, the 6th was where we saw a response, and Vitality are still going to have a purchase. I think the other thing as well is maybe at times you'd look at this buy and go, okay, most of them have light shields. There's a Bulldog in the mix as well. Do you really want to go for this? Do you want to go for a lighter buy? But it's the ults. Like, you have most of them 1 or 2 away. Very high impact if they can get there. So I don't mind them at least investing a bit. And well, in this case, it's majority for some players, but just to make sure that they can make this one competitive.
I love the difference in players as well. We get to see a lot of folks down on that stage, and when the timeouts are called, some players lock in, some listen intently.
Some have a nap.
Less doesn't change at all. It maintains exactly the. I think he might be a statue. I'm not sure much moves other than his wrists when it's game day, when he's on that stage. You should see him on the court. But I love the difference as well with Kayak.
What court would that be?
Basketball court.
Okay, basketball. It could have been tennis.
It could have been. I have no doubt that he can play it. But the difference as well with Kayak, you know, you always just see him lounging back. It's like he goes to his happy place. I want to know what that is.
No, he's lying back and he's imagining these Aspas.
Many of us do that. Not just during the
Except for him, it seems like it's at least within reach. Whereas for me, there's many dreams. I'd take just the hair. I don't even need the Valorant skill.
Yeah, you say that about a lot of people.
Yeah.
This is a nice spot.
It's understandable. Well,
that dream died a long time ago.
Fleeting youth.
Oh, nice.
9-8. Let's get existential with it. Dirk is down on mid. Picks up Boaster.
Spike down mid.
The opening pick for the side of Vitality. Something that's been missing in some of these rounds.
It's
their opponents hot on their heels.
I think that missed. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, nothing found from Alpha yet. That was their attempt to bring back the advantage, at least a neck and neck.
It was very close. I think it was literally a millimeter off from catching out kicks and potentially even things up. That would have been maybe a controller down on both sides unless Kicks managed to win the duel. And well, he said it in a previous clip that he's only won it once, so maybe not believing that would be the case. A stall out from Fnatic, and interestingly, Kayak is so much further forward than anyone else. Still a jump spot from Safe, just trying to get them extra information, but I think he's missed anything that could have been there, and I think realizes it as well because he's going to fall back to the site instead.
A drone up through A long, that is the spike carrier droning, but intention to go back, exactly. It's a ruse for Chronicle to embed deep into short and play that late flank. He'll get a great opportunity by the looks of things with the cross coming in, and indeed, he catches Durka. Chronicle with a valuable pick for Fnatic, putting them back into a reasonable position, but it's all falling apart on the site. Kicks interrupts the fallback, and then Seavoth has the door wide open, steps through the frame, puts his fist down. Fnatic, they were climbing back into this, but the gap has just gotten a little bigger. Vitality on double digits.
They really are mimicking each other. It's crazy that the way that this game has gone is both teams having a 5-0 start on the map and then the next one breaking back. And I think a lot of it just came down to Durka deciding, okay, I'm taking this one into my own hands. Sure, gets caught out by a lurk, but it meant that it almost forced Fnatic into a slightly more direct take, and both Kicks and Seavoth were very, very ready for that to happen, both around that position. I think especially with the kill contract being used to try and clear it out. There has to be something in their minds. That'll be their first round over on the defensive side. And that's it. They had a lot of ultimates that were close. Well, all of them, bar the Neural Theft, are now online.
Flowing on the way, and they are certainly committing to it. Sometimes you can just gate crash out of Garage. We've seen it attempted before, and this time the exact same thing happens. The double tap about to fade. Alpha, he's not getting greedy. He doesn't swing in as many a player would, and it might have been a mistake with kicks so close. Hunter's Fury, blindly thrown in, cancelled with one more burst. Safe was trying to bait anybody that might have lurked up short. He's still scarred from that lurk from Chronicle in the previous round.
Oh, nice. Okay. He's had the read. Drone goes out, but it doesn't give him much more information. When you have a Yoru pushing a spot on the map, it can very easily be a fake. And that's so unfortunate. I think he's just teleported away, so waiting to try and catch someone with that kill contract, and there will be nobody even remotely close to that position. Fnatic have tried that bait, succeeded, and now head into just one man. That man will be less.
Luckily for Sivov, he had the trigger discipline to not just fire the ult through into empty space. Hunter's Fury, it's not even Hunter's Fury, it's Boaster with the trade, but because the ult's online, Sivov gets another shot. Double tap, not available, but Sivov finds the pick and now comes back in, ready to brawl. Fnatic have their work cut out for them. A 2 versus 3. Happy to run that clock down a little lower, but the plant very much needed by this squad now. 10 seconds. They know that someone has to plant, and when they do, they're removed from the fight, but they'll do it on eliminations instead, taking the fight to the backside. And Fnatic hot on Vitality's heels again.
There are moments that are swinging this game back and forth, and that was definitely one of them. You mentioned it. Sivov holding his ultimate for a rainy day in the end, just about being able to put it into position, but is this late call right down to the wire. 8 seconds on the clock as they look to take these final fights, and even a little bit worrying that in the middle of that there was a reload coming through. 10-9. Fnatic break back immediately, and well, with a few of those ults already expended, Hunter's Fury gone in the last round. I think the TP was used as well. And obviously the kill contract for Sivov, everybody's back on level pegging again, except for the problem, the economy running out for this defensive side.
Mid push from Durka cancelled out with the gate crash. They don't see early contact. And I like this from Fnatic, just the early freeze. I gotta say, in that last round, backside C push, the main thing that stands out to me is many players would make the assessment of, we can't really plant here, we have to just fight. But they do that individually. Fnatic move as a team, even in that moment of panic, 6 seconds on the clock, and they made the right call. Drone on its way around. It's spotted 2. They know that there's heavy presence here now. And with Sivov often playing around this position, maybe they'll put 2 and 2 together and realize that, well, Chronicle's space that he's taking might be more valuable to them. With 40 seconds on the clock, though, it's time to make a call.
Smoke's gone in. The spike is heading back towards C. They are selling this as a giant ruse in towards the A side. Of course, the majority can just leave, and they have fallen hook, line, and sinker for this one. Only one standing. It will be less. Might be able to try and hit the timing, at least on one of the players, but Chronicle baits him in with the removal of the pin. And now they have that post plant. A 5 versus 4. Dimensional drift immediately used for Durka to try and clear some of these angles. Knowing there's a player on site, Alfia is already going to drop another teammate though, and this is looking incredibly problematic.
Big plays needed on the site, and it's Alpha still lurking around to find the value. Sivov with an unbelievable performance on ISO, and he'll get the defuse to halfway. They've even got the side angle covered. The swing out, though, instantly deals with him. But Durka done in by Kayak. There was no hope left. We started out with more OTs than I care to count. An 18-16 scoreline. 4 OTs needed, and we may need the same here, Tom. But if you look at the timeline, well, you said that they were doing exactly the same. 5 rounds, then the win back. Well, since then, the tide has turned back into Fnatic's favor, and it looks like that defensive round from Vitality might have been a flash in the pan. Add to that the fact that in the next round, this one here, Vitality don't have money. The lead back in Fnatic's hands. All they've left to do is to close it.
speak about the 9-3 curse, but most of the time that's just been a meme. This has been an absurd resurgence from Fnatic individually. We have seen the depth that this roster can bring, and on the other side of things, Dirk has been trying to pad the gap, but that's now a whole lot of aggression. 3 rounds in a row with a mid push, punished 2, the third got away. And in this case, trying to literally put the world on his shoulders. The problem is he's got that rifle, but if you don't teleport out of there, there is no real way to retrieve it, especially if Fnatic just hold onto that ground. And I think they will have had the spot onto safe. So they're just pausing again. This spot could be dangerous. Nice shot from Les.
Here. From the A side, but the spike still very far away. That's time running off the clock, and Chronicle wants to make up for it with space. It's dangerous against a weaker buy to play like this, and that's a big mistake. Even the Tracer's easy to follow back on, but Sevov steps in to take the pick. An immediate response, though. Boaster and Kayak cleaning this up before it gets too dangerous. Les lurking inside the smokes, and he steps out with Kayak waiting. 11 rounds for Fnatic, and what could be one last big buy for Vitality to put a stop to this win streak. An incredible amount of rounds with just one scattered throughout for Vitality. They need a solution, and they need it now.
And that win streak doesn't just take into consideration today. That is a streak of 6 consecutive victories through different rosters, through Durka being on the team, to leaving the team, to joining Vitality, to making a Masters. But this is the first time he's faced off against Fnatic, and I'll be honest, it's not been a good day for Durka. He had his moments in that first OT. That was where he really looked to step up and take over the match. And while with a pause on the board for Vitality, he's the man we look to again, because let's be real, we talked about this 1-2 duelist punch. Well, it's been a 1. Sevov has been incredibly impressive. In fact, you look at Alfia on the other side, he's been having a rough time. But then, the man who replaced him, Kayak, has been unstoppable. 19 and 14, the depth of this Fnatic roster showing the resilience as well. It's always going to be more difficult to continue when you make that player swap, but I don't think there's been any proof of that here today. For Vitality, as you said, they come into this one with a buy, an attempt to stop them, but you then look over at the ultimates and they're not going to have any of those to help them out.
It really is a day for the young guns, forged in the fires of Tier 2. Now they've come here to bring that chaos to the server. For Fnatic, 11 on the board. The chance to put themselves on the green and just tap it in to close us out. But it's this buy round that Vitality have hinged everything on. They've just had a chat with Faded. Their last opportunity, I believe that's both their timeouts burned up.
Who's next? Cutting through.
This has to work. Whatever iteration we see, it's aggression from Durka down on A short. Kayak commits the ulti, and that's a big problem now. Even though he gate crashes to spawn, they have to be worried about this for the rest of the round until that's fully cleared. It keeps safe in position deep into the round, only now starting to leave that A site, but it's this push that's made up for the gap that was created. But they're watching it. Kayak, eyes in the back of his head, and Boaster onto Sevov, the big player for Vitality, put to bed early.
And they immediately look to fall back, already seeing enough for them to know that this could be a ruse. They're trying to run the steps over to A and make them commit in this direction. Look at them running all the way down as if this is the play. It really does seem like a Boaster masterclass in so many of these rounds, just baiting their opponents, baiting the leaders of the Vitality squad to believe that this is going to be an A commitment. Instead, now those two players who've sold the ruse look to run back, and they're still waiting for less. They're waiting for a flank on a site they never even took.
Unbelievable. You come into a round after a timeout knowing, boys, this is where we have to stop them. That was the idea from Vitality, but look at how it's fallen apart. They won't even come close to the site where the spike is planted. Not even close to B. Up in heaven, they sit and wait for this round to come to a close. And even then, They don't get to sit safely for long. Alphayer is here. He's looking to make it more costly, and he's hit kicks. The 1-2 punch perhaps to put the economy in the dirt, and he's landed it! An end zone, flawless from Fnatic. This seemed to be Vitality's final hope. A history that they hoped wouldn't repeat here today. But it's written in the stars now. Fnatic with 2 chances to close out this series.
I want to say as well, to give even more credit to Boaster. After the last 2 maps...
And Cron Hunt. Me and Crashies will cuddle and make love.
After the last 2 maps, I think you can genuinely say this has been some of the best attack side calling we've ever seen. Like, think back to Lotus, the consistent switch-ups, redirects, and bamboozles, and well, Dirk had thought, again, that's the second time he's just been matched pound for pound. That was literally the flank last time coming up, and then he purchased an Outlaw to beat the other team's Outlaw. It truly is ridiculous how almost in his head Kayak must be at this stage.
You see all this money for Fnatic and Vitality go, okay guys, we can get utility and get some decent weapons, take the half shields. And then the first pick goes to an Outlaw and you're like, uh-oh. Well, a lot of us are in a pretty vulnerable position, but Fnatic...
This is everything. Sivov needs to try and win this battle. It's him versus Chronicle, and it's Bessie! And he knows it as well. That might be the beginning of the end. Chronicle's able to hold on to mid control, but the team weren't just sitting waiting. They weren't watching while they took that 1v1 fight like we were. Instead, there's now going to be another. It could be another nail in the coffin. The problem is they lose one more. It's left a lot to less. The import, the man brought over from Brazil. A Champions winner who has suffered defeat at Fnatic before and will suffer it again. We look as Vitality as a favorite going into this series, but history repeats itself for a 7th time.
That's got to be heartbreaking, Tom. After Split going the way it did, Vitality digging deep to fight back into that map, taking an OT after facing so many map points. And then the last 2 maps, although this one 13-10, that second half, there seemed to be no way for it to go but into Fnatic's favor. Sivov with a debut on ISO, performing phenomenally, but it just wasn't enough.
Think about the Boaster pistol clutch. Think back all the way to then. A 1v3, I think it was a 2v4 as well, that if they lose that, I think this is done. I think that Vitality just steamroll over it, but the leader stepped up. I think we talk a lot about his individual stats, but I think throughout the day he has been sublime. Whether it is the statistics ending this map 17-12, having high impact overall, but also I think the calling was honestly sublime. And then again, we always wanted to see what Kayak would do when he stepped onto the stage versus the man that seemed irreplaceable. Well, he had a star-studded performance today and even a little jig to finish things off.